Test, 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 test. Okay, looks like it's coming through okay. We'll be getting started in just a minute here. Okay, looks like everything's coming through okay. Okay. Well, looks like everything is going okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and get started with a little bit of an introduction and a recap of the previous week's stream. So first and foremost, hello, I hope you're all doing okay. Thank you for checking out this video, for stopping by the stream. Hope everything's going well on your end. As a brief introduction, my name is John. I've been working as a video game developer for a little while now. I very much love video games, and I am particularly a big fan of the Souls series, and so this series of streams is going to be me doing a Dark Souls 2 playthrough, primarily just to kind of explore the game from a mechanical and aesthetic and level and world building standpoint. So in other words, similar to the Elden Ring stream we were doing a couple weeks ago, which we will resume, by the way. I haven't abandoned that. I just wanted to jump in for Dark Souls 2 for a little bit. But the idea is to basically kind of take our time, go slowly, and just sort of appreciate things as we go, and talk about what are some of the things that the game builders, the sort of challenges and tasks that they would have faced in order to try to build this game and bring it to life. What are some of the ways in which they might have succeeded, some other challenges in which they might have struggled, what sort of roadblocks might they have come up against, and what were their strategies, as far as I can tell, in order to try to overcome those. I also want to talk about how I feel about the game's pacing, the game's difficulty, everything from like the sound design to the visuals, although I'm more of an audio person than a visual person, so my critique will mostly be like, ooh, that's pretty, or ooh, this or that thing I think does some good visual storytelling, as opposed to being able to comment in depth about lighting and composition and stuff like that. But as for the sound design, I'll be trying to talk a little bit about that as well, because it is an interest of mine. What else? Yeah, so last week we got through the No Man's Wharf, and I was pleasantly surprised by just how many different new mechanics and concepts they introduced in that level. It had honestly been one of those levels that kind of fell into the background of my mind. Like, I don't really think about it every time I'm done playing the game. I don't think back on that as being a particularly impressive level for whatever reason, but actually going through it, it really does feel like a space in which they were trying to introduce a lot of interesting and new concepts to the player. Maybe you feel that some of them worked, maybe you feel that some of them didn't work so well. That's totally fine, but I think the level deserves a certain amount of respect for just condensing so many interesting concepts into that relatively small space, including things like creating looping back checkpoints and such, introducing a couple of useful NPCs, some new mechanics with like fire and oil and stuff like that, which we'll, I'm sure, see expanded upon very soon. So what I want to do for this particular stream, actually let me just check the stream quality real quick, because it looks like the frame rate might not be ideal. 1 second. Audio might go off for just 1 sec. I think it looks okay on YouTube. It's just OBS is being weird. Oh, I see what the issue is. Sorry for the distraction here. No. Just troubleshooting for 1 sec. Yeah, so we're going to be going to Lost Bastille in just a moment. I'm going to pause briefly just to make sure that this issue is resolved, but it looks like it is. Yeah, OBS was just looking super choppy, but it looks like the footage online, like on YouTube itself, is updating pretty frequently. Might be some optimization I can do later, but I won't waste your guys' time with that right now. But let me know if there's any issues, if you hear any audio issues or visual issues. I can certainly take some time to try to remedy that, and in the meantime I'll keep my eye on the preview and see if anything comes up. Okay, so that being said, yeah, Lost Bastille is definitely one of those levels that I tend to think of pretty readily when I am looking for examples of levels that are like fully complete, expansive, multiple pathways, like checkpoints and aspects that kind of loop back in on themselves. I think fans of Dark Souls 1, when they look for levels in Dark Souls 2 to kind of match up, I think they're usually fairly satisfied with the Lost Bastille. I think it's like a an exemplar sort of level, for lack of a better word. So I want to see, now that we've gone to the starting from there first. Now that we've gone through No Man's Wharf and we've seen how well, in my opinion, they did at fleshing out that space, does the Lost Bastille continue to improve and expand upon those concepts, or does it feel a little bit old hat now that we've experienced that sort of thing? I also want to take a moment to think about some of the criticism that I've heard of the game. That's one thing I didn't quite mention, is that part of what's inspired this playthrough is that I've been listening to a lot of people's takes on the game, including Matthew Matosis, Mahler, H. Bomber Guy, Feeble King, a couple other people, and trying to identify why the game has sort of a sour reputation amongst some in the community, and figuring out, like, okay, well, I know I love the game, and I think of it critically as being a success, but how can I reconcile my own feelings with some of the criticism that I've heard levied against the game? How do I feel about it now after years of it being out? And has my opinion changed on it, both after hearing that feedback and then also after, thinking about it some more myself? And part of what I want to do here is I want to experiment with different weapons, different builds, in order to see, like, if the way that I have previously played the game is representative of, or like to kind of see if I can address some of the concerns, because I can always be like, oh, if you don't like melee combat, play a sorcerer build. If you think sorcery's too cheesy, maybe try a dex build or something, right? But is there a common thread of jankiness throughout all of that that makes it just difficult for your average player to enjoy it? If so, I want to look for that and see if I can find some evidence on my own to support that. So here's an interesting thing that comes up sometimes in criticism. So let's push this barrel a little bit. It doesn't want to comply. Okay, so first I'll mention, I don't know if you guys noticed that, but the audio sounded like super distorted and choppy. I think because there were multiple barrels that were playing at the same time. You get this thing that happens in audio where, just curious if that would work, where if you have multiple instances of the same sound playing at the same time, their waveforms basically like overlap and combine, and the data or energy, however you want to describe it, from each of those things winds up like summing together and adding together. So you get if you have like 3 instances of the same sound that are playing at the same time, you don't just hear 3 sounds overlapping necessarily. You might hear a sound that's like twice as loud or 3 times as loud. And I think that's what happens. It sounded super crunchy because it was literally like peaking out whatever the audio limiter in the game was and distorting. So that, I think, is just a limitation of the audio engine. That's just outright a bug, right? Which is a bit unfortunate. Now I wanna, okay, yeah, I thought the pursuer was here. I haven't upgraded this weapon at all. This is probably a mistake, especially with fat rolling. Yeah, okay, I gotta do this. And I forgot to change my equipment. 1 second. Okay, that'll be a little bit better. Oh no, he got me. Serves me right for not equipping myself properly beforehand. Okay, yeah, that was bad. So that did feel like, my own fault entirely. I had equipped the Ultra Greatsword, or whatever it's called in this game, in order to try and test out how that moveset compares. And I guess we can do that again before we go back into the boss arena. At the moment, I don't really have enough stamina to make good use of it. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Just called the Greatsword. At the moment, I don't really have enough stamina to make appropriate use of it, so it kind of makes sense that I died there. But let me see if I can just go back in here first. Try this thing out again. I remember one of the criticisms that came out around this barrel was that it has like an inconsistent hitbox. So Yeah, I'd say that that's probably fair. In the footage I saw, it kind of looked like as long as you were standing within a whatchamacallit, as long as you were sort of like visually shielded from the graphics associated with the fire, like the particle effects or whatever, then you also wouldn't be damaged. But it looks like it's a little bit more inconsistent than that. So I'm fine with saying that that's a little bit buggy or at least misleading. I do like the fact that I don't know if this is ever really seriously telegraphed to the player, but at some point I figured out somehow that if you roll into a barrel as opposed to smashing it with a metal weapon, it will crumble like this, right? As opposed to just exploding. And so eventually figuring out that you have the ability to kind of interact with that system, like choose to break the barrels or to use them as a source of damage or whatever, or possibly even to nuke the barrel yourself when an enemy is near. I think it's a nice way of kind of riffing on the concept of those exploding barrels that were introduced earlier on with the Turtle Knights. So, and as for the Pursuer as well, you know, From Software have a tendency, as I'm sure you know if you've played these games, to take enemies that are initially, a second, I gotta focus slightly, that are initially like bosses, and then eventually return them as enemies that just occur more frequently in the world. And I think the Pursuer, you know, obviously this is a Scholar of the First Sin edition, or edition, excuse me, but I think it was an interesting way of kind of evolving that concept further, because you have an enemy that you've encountered before that is a boss, but now when you're encountering him, he feels like a boss, but he also doesn't really feel that much more complex or intimidating than like one of the Black Knights, or like Gwyn's Knights from Dark Souls 1. His moveset isn't really all that, you know, expansive or whatever, and I think he's pretty fair with the opportunity to get, you know, significantly harder if you get hit by the sort of glowing blue sword attack. You know, he does get stronger then when he gets into like a quote-unquote second phase, but that is extremely well telegraphed. I mean, there's a big fucking blue glowing sword. You also get quite a lot out of this, so I think it's worth noting that you see these 3 bloodstains, and I'm playing online right now, so these very well could be, you know, player bloodstains. I think they probably are, but regardless, yeah, I think it must be right, because Elden Ring was the first game to introduce like an offline bloodstain, if I remember correctly. Although they all look like they have the same kind of build, so I'm not sure. They look very, very similar. But anyway, I think if you're playing online, chances are you are going to get a very, very clear telegraph that this guy is over here. The idea of an enemy, a singular enemy that continues to show up and ambush you, I think creates a really interesting relationship between you and that enemy. The glowing red eye as well is something that's associated with, I believe, a ring that causes enemies to be attracted to you. So there's a little bit of storytelling there with the idea that, you know, there's this big red obvious visual indicator that he's, you know, not just like hunting you down like a hunter pursues prey, but almost like drawn to you by some sort of irresistible pull, which I think is a pretty cool addition as well. I think I'm going to, what should I do? Ring of Blades is probably pretty good. I think I'll go away from healing, go to Covetous Silver Serpent Ring. So yeah, that even if you didn't survive that guy, you could have chosen to run away. You could have simply gone to the chest and you would have gotten those items, which are pretty significant. And we, at this point, like 6 hours into the game, already have 2 fragrant branches, which opens up like one pathway and then one optional thing earlier on. If we hold on to it, it'll open up that merchant as well, the spell merchant, I forget his name. So already, like, there's a lot going on here in just this little room, progressing into this little area. We have an ambush with an ethereal pursuing enemy that's a reincorporation of a boss. We have access to multiple useful items. We have this introduction of a admittedly kind of janky and kind of inconsistent system with the exploding barrels, but an opportunity in a relatively safe, consequence-free area, being right near the bonfire, to kind of play around with it and see how it works and mess with it. And this is useful because pretty soon we'll be coming up against, actually, I think right around the corner here, against another barrel that can open up a checkpoint for us. So, yeah. These guys over here are pyromancers, I believe, or maybe they were people who shepherded pyromancers. They're pretty tough. You kind of gotta watch your back around them, but at the same time, very clearly telegraphed movements, not particularly terrifying if you just sort of pay attention. All of this, too, as a back route, I believe. We got here from pursuing the, this is the path that we took to get here with the eagle, right? And then the front entrance is where we got through No Man's Wharf. So I think chances are if you come here through No Man's Wharf without meeting the pursuer the first time, I believe you'll come here and the door will be locked or something like that, or you won't be able to get over to the bonfire, if I remember correctly. So it's a nice way of kind of creating an incentive to come back and explore, and then have that final encounter with the pursuer. And then here's our friend.
I thought that might be you. You haven't changed a bit, have you? The longer I am here, the more madness I discover. A wretched place, indeed, but not without traces of its former glory. What could have caused such degradation? Ah, yes. I have not thanked you for humoring me the other day. This is for you.
Now, granted, this only appears if you only get this human effigy if you've interacted with...
I have no idea what it is.
Lucatil elsewhere. 1 second. That's interesting. I don't know the full lore behind that. It seems like she should recognize the effigy as part of herself and be able to use it to hollow, right? So I wonder if she's just sort of gotten to a point where it doesn't make any sense, like the unhollowing process doesn't click anymore, and that's supposed to be our first sign that she's like too far gone, or she started to go down a road of no return in terms of her own like process of hollowing and losing herself. But I like the fact I do like the fact that we get a human effigy right after we've fought the pursuer, and we might have died to the pursuer multiple times, and if so, our health bar would have been depleted. If you look in the upper left, you can see that it's slightly capped as a result of having died. Specifically, I think the pursuer's curse, inflicts twice the normal amount of hollowing as opposed to a single death. But regardless of that, we might have gone up against him like several times, gotten our health all the way down to fully hollowed. But no matter how many mistakes we made, no matter if we fought him 5, 10, 100 times, all it takes is one human effigy in order to completely restore that. And so remembering that you can also get, your humanity restored by participating in co-op, maybe even invasions, I forget, but definitely in co-op. And also just by, exploring the world. Granted, I'm more experienced with the game, but 6 hours in, I have access to 20 of these. So if you even if you make like a shitload of mistakes, all you need to do is time the use of a single human effigy in order to like restore your ability to like summon phantoms and restore your health to full. So I think it's nice, like especially if we've just had like this terrifying encounter with the pursuer, finding her and having her give us this meaningful item that can help restore us after being like significantly drained, I think is a really good choice and helps create like a bond with the character.
Our land of Mirror is surrounded by enemies and constantly at war. There is only one way up in Mirror. Join the Order and prove yourself in battle. My family had little fortune and no name. I had to carve out a piece of the world for myself. With two things: my sword and my loyalty to my lord. I was raised to wield a sword from birth. Life was hard, but I never gave it a second thought. I had swift success on the battlefield and quickly attained respectable stature. And then I came here to... Have you heard of the undead? These poor souls affected by the curse. An undead gradually loses his humanity until his wits degrade completely. Finally, he turns hollow and preys upon others. And a hollow can never be human again. One can skirt this wicked fate only with the help of the souls found here. Assuming, of course, that the legends are true. I can only hope that they are. I'm sorry to burden you with talk of my fate. I suppose I've grown weary these days. I'm sorry. I suppose I've grown weary these days.
I will say that I love that reveal of her being hollow, or at least being affected by the curse and potentially going down the road of hollowing. I wonder if it could have been more effective if we spent a bit more time with her, and if her sort of process towards hollowing was, I guess, a bit more gradual. You know, like if she told us about her experience becoming a hollow now, and then we had like one more boss fight with her, and then later she said something like, hey, yeah, I'm really glad that neither of us turned out to be hollow. Oh wait, and then does the reveal. It just feels a little abrupt to kind of go that fast from the introduction of the concept to that reveal. I don't know if they wanted it to just be something that was more obvious as opposed to having a big dramatic reveal or something, but yeah, it feels a little abrupt. It feels like, just in general, the NPC questlines are a little compressed. That being said, I wanted to take a look at this key. Where's the key items? Kind of messed up my... I'm used to the Elden Ring inventory system now, which I do think is a lot more elegant. But hey, 10 years of advancement. Okay, let's see. Okay, that doesn't really give us much to go on, but that's okay. Oh, the other thing to mention is that we just got the ember recently as well. So here's a simple patrol. Should be a pretty clear indication that this guy is to be respected. Oh, holy shit! Yeah, I guess so. Wow, that was a lot of damage. Okay. So I think that felt way overtuned. Like, I feel that my level at this point in the game is pretty substantially over what you would normally be at this point, at least in terms of like weapon upgrades. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but that considered, I feel like the game is just nudging me to be like, hey, you're gonna need to upgrade vigor pretty quick, otherwise you're gonna be outpaced. Oh, hey, Mr. Narrative, good to see ya. How's everything going? Not much going on my end. Things are pretty normal. Work is stable, home is stable. Been doing some reorganizing of my space, trying to just make things a little bit more logical. Had a lot of like moving boxes and storage and everything, and starting to finally get rid of some of that stuff and get back to like a manageable situation. But yeah, I've been doing pretty well, thanks. How about you? How are things on your end? Just playing some Dark Souls 2 tonight. I'm continuing to look for things to kind of comment about the game's quality and talk about the discourse around the game and people's opinions of it, how mine might have changed over the years as well. And so far it's been a lot of fun just getting a chance to revisit some of this stuff. Now this is something I do have mixed feelings about, which is that barrel, okay, over there. You're probably not gonna know it the first time you play through, but if you're coming from this direction, that guy will probably attack you and swipe, like, with that lateral swipe that he does. And it'll probably break this barrel. And you'll never notice that this barrel can do this, which, fingers crossed, that actually works. Okay, yeah, it's so fucking inconsistent. Mission narrative says, "Good man, gonna shower after a long day at work." Nice, nice. Yep, that's so satisfying when you're finally like done with the day and you can just like chill out, vibe, and like kind of let the water drown out the world around you for a little bit. Well earned, I'd say. But yeah, so this is a super important bonfire. You can definitely get in here with a key, so you don't technically need for this to happen, if I remember correctly. But this is an explosive barrel, and there's a couple of things that are kind of janky about this. For one, it doesn't quite look like the other explosive barrels we've seen. Yeah, it's definitely darker than your average barrel, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it's very easy to tell, okay, yeah, this is definitely one of those explosive barrels. It's supposed to come down here, and it's supposed to hit the wall and explode, and I don't know, I like the concept a lot. I like the idea that you would see this guy chuck a barrel at you. It's kind of a throwback to Dark Souls 1 with that, like, flaming ball, the boulder that gets thrown at you, and then you would dodge out of the way, and then you would see the explosion and get hit by it, but then have the shortcut. That's all really cool, except when you're up there, the enemy will probably do that lateral swing, which will break the barrel, and it won't explode. If the barrel did explode from him attacking it, it would feel consistent, and then you would say, oh, maybe there's a way that I can manipulate this situation into my advantage. And, oh, look, there's a big crack down there. Okay, that's very obvious. I can see something through the crack. Looks like there might be something back there, and it might be connected to this. So that all definitely seems reasonable, right? But what's probably going to happen is he's going to break the barrel, or he's going to kick it down. It's going to blow up in your face, and you're not going to make that connection. You're not going to realize the mechanic that they're hinting at. And now, since I don't believe I have a fire weapon, well, maybe I can try... This is dark pine resin. Yeah, so I was an idiot and I didn't bring a fire weapon with me. I could try flame butterfly. I don't think I'm going to be able to... You know what? Screw it. I want to give it a shot. Let's see if I can do this. Like this. There we go. Okay, that worked. So I admit it was kind of fun to figure that out. But also, okay, so we have a bonfire. This bonfire is like not at all very far away from where we were previously. This key, I think we can just get this key elsewhere, right? Yeah, so it doesn't even unlock this. And then if we are to rest over here, excuse me. I do like that, the fact that he like moves closer to the flame. If we do rest over here, then I don't know, it's a very weirdly implemented kind of shortcut, you know what I mean? But let's see what we get. One's hammer, twinkling titanite. I do remember hearing somebody say that they thought there's something kind of weird about the blacksmiths in Dark Souls, that they never really get a forge. There's kind of I think there's something like some kind of little smoldering fire near Master Hugh in Elden Ring, but for the most part the smiths just like hit metal on metal with hammer, and they don't really have a any kind of like a working forge. And now that somebody pointed that out, like I can't unsee it. Let's see, titanite. Titanite shards, so good. Okay, so we're getting a bunch of good stuff. The craftsman's hammer, I think, is a useful item as well. Check that out. Yeah, it's got pretty good striking damage. Some say it was a hammer used long ago by a famed blacksmith of yore. I think that's a reference to Dark Souls 1, right? I'm not going to use that right now. Let's talk to this guy.
Oh, why can't they all be this easy? We've got a wild one here. Shape up. Shape up, I say. That's it, yes. That's the way. Dear flame, how brightly you burn.
Kind of interesting that the person that we wind up getting infusion from, which I think is it's a semi-new thing for Dark Souls 2. I think they iterated on it a bit from Dark Souls 1. Unlike in, say, Elden Ring or Dark Souls 3, we actually go to a separate guy who is kind of removed from the rest of the world, from the rest of our NPCs. As we're like gathering a bunch of weirdos and bringing them back to Majula, this guy always stays apart. I really do like his obsession with the flame. A friend of mine was talking to me recently about how he thinks that the characters in Dark Souls 2 tend to have a kind of cartoonish aesthetic and appearance. And looking at this guy, he does feel a little bit World of Warcrafty, if that makes sense. He's got a lot of kind of soft, gentle colors and textures to him. The way that he kind of swings, and he's not even hitting his he's just hitting the anvil, he's not even hitting the thing. He does feel like he's maybe taken out of something that's not quite Dark Souls, if that makes sense. It feels a little bit more cartoonish. I think might be a little, not the word that I'm looking for specifically, but a little impressionistic or something, a little bit like watercolor almost, something like that. But it is a nice detail that they included an ample tool belt. If you kind of look there, you can see there's like parched leather with quite a bit of detail on his, I don't know if that's a term for it, his tool belt, his kit, whatever it is. The dual braids, the band around his head, the beard, everything kind of feels very traditional dwarven craftsman. But it's very well done, I think. And his obsession with flame as well is great. I do wish he would stop the fucking hammering, because it's driving me fucking crazy. It always does. Oh, I forgot about the great axe as well. Might be worth picking that out. But yeah, so he sells infinite large titanite shards. I think the like Lenegrast back in Majula sells infinite basic ones, right? So by this point in the game, we can potentially, let's see, what's our resistance on this? So this has a 90% physical reduction. What about this other shield he's got? Whoops, I scrolled right past it, didn't I? Yeah, so this one over here has 100. So right away, you know, within like under 10 hours of the game, we have access to the ability to upgrade any weapon to +6, the ability to have access to a 100% block shield, which I'm actually going to get, and the ability to access multiple ranged weapons. I think I'll buy this crossbow, you know, I think I'll buy some bolts, heavy bolt, yep, just get a few of these. And so really, that was super cheap too. I don't even really need to do a lot of damage with these. These can just be used for kiting and whatnot. So now I feel like I've got a lot of different options, and I can start playing with different builds. Yeah, I feel like the game is very flexible. I feel like it's providing you with a variety of different options and giving you an opportunity to play around and see which ones you like. So I'm going to, let's see, the Drangleic sword I know is really good. I haven't played with scimitars much, so let's try that. Oh, it says I can't use them with my current stats. What? Oh, I need 16 dex. Okay, that's fine. I'll come back to that later. So, battle axe, get the bandit axe. Scimitar, what about the mail breaker? Maybe not. Dex, so I need to start leveling dex. Let's try the halberd. We got a heavy crossbow. Yeah, let's try the grand lance. Let's work up to that. I'm gonna try the halberd for now. Let's see how that goes. Obviously unupgraded, so it's gonna be not super strong. Nice moveset. Too much stamina though. Yeah, I really like that. We get to test how the shield compares as well. The one mechanic I've never really engaged with much has been carrying, but yeah, that shield is great. Wow. Also, might be a little awkward to be halberding with a one hand, but you know, actually, as much as I like the poise, I'm going to try and see if we can get some co-op going. That'd be nice. Yeah, I don't trust that for a minute. I guess maybe the placement of these barrels over here, plus this guy's tendency to use fire attacks is what's meant to teach us about that. But that would be more effective if I think... Oh, okay. I did not know that that would happen. I thought for sure that... Huh. That... Okay, well that now I have to go back and like rethink what I said before. Because clearly, like... if his attacks are actually generating like fire stims for that barrel, then that's a very intuitive learning opportunity, and that totally changes the way that I feel about that like shortcut. I still don't know if the shortcut is necessary or particularly meaningful or whatever, but in terms of its implication, yeah, I do think it's pretty effective. Okay. So this is something that I've seen come up in multiple people's videos. Okay, with the fire. Not with the fire. I'm gonna die. Yep. Okay, that's fair. So yeah, honestly that was pretty frustrating. I guess that didn't feel super fair to me. That felt a little cheesy. I guess let me go back and see if I feel like it was because I was not paying enough attention to the flame, to the fire barrels. I also am just learning the weapon, and clearly much better as a two-handed weapon. So let's see if I can get him to do this. Hello, a gentleman. Okay, it does do that. Okay, that changes everything. So I have to recontextualize what I said before so that you think it. Nice spinning attack. I like that. I feel like his movesets are pretty engaging. That particular enemy is fun to fight. You know, wide-ranging, wide-sweeping attacks. So yeah, it's sort of starting to click for me that they designed this area to be more of like oh shit! What the hell? That was weird. The enemies in this area seem to be pretty deliberately designed to be incorporated into part of a larger like environmental level puzzle, if that makes sense. And the puzzle involves like avoiding traps and hazards. I think that it feels very like much better than just putting some enemies strewn about, right? They're part of a larger puzzle and challenge. Now something that did just happen there that I know people have brought up as a potential criticism, I highly disagree. I think it's a good thing. Is that if I'm if I'm facing this direction and I start to perform a melee attack, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to press right bumper to begin my melee attack, and then I'm immediately going to press up on the left control stick in order to try to move my character forward. So imagine like I attacked now and then I do this, right? Now and do that. Like I'm going to try to rotate. What happens in Elden Ring is the moment, like if you start your attack and then you hold down forward while your attack is playing like the raring up or the gearing up animation, the moment it transitions from the wind up is the word I'm looking for, from the wind up to the strike, it will just pivot your character around completely. So you can hang out back here to the full wind up and then like at the last second pivot and hit the enemy. Now let's see what happens here. Okay, so very, very different, right? So attack forward. Okay, I'm going to do attack forward. And you see I just sort of start to rotate a little bit. Because in this game, they decided that once you actually begin swinging your weapon, you are going to have limited control, but like emphasis on unlimited there. Now, some people seem to think this is a bug. Other people, they don't necessarily call it a bug, but they do think it's inconsistent and unfair or something like that. I disagree. I think that it is definitely a little bit more just like rigid or inflexible than a more modern solution, or even something that you might have found in Elden Ring. But at the same time, I also think it's something that encourages you to respect the limitations of these large weapons. They are. It helps balance them from a mechanical as well as a numbers perspective, because you're getting access to this massive thing. You're swinging around. It's got the benefit usually of more damage versus a smaller weapon. It also has the benefit of attacks like this that affect more enemies in crowds. So I guess I'm kind of realizing it's probably good to have a short range melee weapon and a long range melee weapon, in order to, or not a short range and long range, but like it's good to have something that's like more adequate for dealing with like groups, as well as something that might be more specialized for dealing with one-on-one situations. I will say, I do feel like there's no right time to heal sometimes. I felt this way about Hollow Knight too, even though like I love that game. I think it's very, I think I like gushed about it before, or like maybe gush is not the word I want to use, but I definitely sang its praises before. And I think with Hollow Knight specifically, there are some bosses where it just feels like once you get hit, you're done, right? Like you basically have to restart the fight, because there's just going to be fucking hell. There's just going to be this lengthy ass sequence of attacks that's just going to whittle you down. What? Okay, hang on. Alright. And over time, like whittling you down, it's going to be basically, like, especially if you want to do the fight efficiently, you kind of have to like start over. And I also felt like that there. Like, was that really when was the time where I was supposed to quote unquote heal in order to get out of there? When was the time that I had like earned the heal, so to speak, and chosen the right moment? I don't know that there was one. And so it felt like, okay, I got hit once, and my punishment for getting hit once is that if I try to heal again, then I'm done for. And so I basically just have to like survive the encounter or perish. Now, that being said, let's take my question as a non-rhetorical question, right? Let's say, okay, what if I had to actually like legitimately answer that? How would I answer that? Well, I could say that the game was trying to encourage me to understand that there are going to be group ambushes and always have a plan in the back of my head, right? Again, all of this is happening in relatively close proximity to the boss fight, to the bonfire, excuse me. And so it's almost like there are very little consequences for getting caught in that situation. And because I had the halberd on me and I was able to do that sort of AoE like crowd attack, then it's like, oh, okay, well, also, right, I decided to, I think, roll into those barrels and destroy them on my way up. But I didn't need to do that. I could have left the barrels there and then tried to bait them into getting blown up by them. So basically, I think what the game is trying to do is just to be like, okay, here's a difficult situation. Now your task is you're probably going to die. You're probably going to lose to this. It's probably going to feel unfair. Now go through your whole inventory of tools that we've given you and come up with something that will help you survive this. And hey, here's a smith nearby who can sell you a bunch of different weapons, including ranged weapons, including weapons that have like wide sweeping attacks and can deal with multiple enemies simultaneously. So you can do this, right? You just need to give it a shot. Thought it might be fun to do a little bit of PvP here, a little bit of co-op, not PvP. This boss is always a little bit of a mess. Not from an implementation standpoint necessarily, just it can get pretty intense pretty quickly if you don't like whittle the enemies down, which I clearly didn't do a very good job of. Oh well, I hope I helped them out a little bit. Well, you're welcome. Yeah, their names are really curious, like Yahim, Ricci, and Alicia, if I'm remembering correctly. I forgot. Okay, so I do think that's kind of lame. That, like, I don't think your oh wait, this isn't even the right spot. Yeah, okay, so granted, it's not a huge deal, and there is something that is how can I phrase this? So I guess let's talk about the multiplayer system, because what I wanted to say was that it kind of sucks that I don't get full Estus refilled, at least for the multiplayer session, when I... The fuck? Can I not use it? I can't leave my own summon sign? I don't understand. Is it because I'm hollowed? I thought you could still do it. That's really weird. No, I'm sure I've done this. Hang on, I need to figure out what's going on here. There must be something else. Maybe someone's trying to summon me as a phantom? Or is there like a cooldown if you lose? You can't just go right back at it? Maybe I'm getting invaded. That could be really, really weird. Well, what I was gonna say is that it's like, part of me wants to be like, you know what? I just want to fucking go back in and try again. I don't really want to have to worry about my health so much. Oh, is it? You can't... Oh, okay. So you can't, like, cancel it by rewriting it. That's sort of bizarre. Okay. Well, that's okay. So what I've been trying to say for the past 5 minutes is that, on the one hand, I really do appreciate the modern, like, conveniences and everything of, you know, your modern Souls games, like Elden Ring, rather. The summoning pools, I think, were a great idea, and the ability to feel like right after you, quote-unquote, fail at a session of multiplayer, you can just very quickly kind of jump back in and give it another shot without having to worry too much about where to put your sign, not going to find people or anything like that. I think that's all great. On the other hand, you do kind of lose something, right? Going through the process of finding the spot and laying down your sign deliberately as a deliberate action in a particular spot, like trying to pick the right spot, and then feeling like you as a... Excuse me, you have to kind of prepare your character for the journey that they're about to go on. So you need to have the correct amount of healing available or whatever else in order to really make it work. I think that feels pretty good, right? It feels more grounded in the world, right? It feels like your character has to do this as opposed to you doing it. And excuse me, in the sense of, like, hopefully this is making some sense. Like in Elden Ring, I want to go play multiplayer, so I go into the multiplayer menu and I select summoning pool, and then I get drawn into the summoning pool. With Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 1 as well, if you want to participate in multiplayer, you have to navigate your character to where you would like to engage with that multiplayer, and then from there, you know, find the correct spot to engage with people in that system. Pick a spot that diegetically makes sense, right? I think it's something that feels a little bit more, yeah, grounded. Makes a big difference to actually have a weapon that you're familiar with, too. Are they able to actually get up here? What the hell? You know that. That definitely doesn't feel intentional. It's hard to know for sure, but, well, maybe. But yeah, it's a little janky. Okay, no big deal. Did I not equip the right shield? Yeah. No way. Okay, there we go. So let's see, now that we've gone through here and already opened the door, how bad is this gank over here? Probably pretty bad. I mean, I don't hate it or anything. It's a lot. It does feel like, especially since it's a run up to a boss, like, you don't want to deal with this and you don't want to, like, necessarily waste your health on these chumps. But at the same time, you know, it does kind of fit the narrative of you being in this prison that's supposed to be well guarded. Feels like you're kind of breaking in, you know? So the idea of, I guess, like, the idea in principle of a bunch of guards, like, rushing out at you and you having to fend them off is pretty, you know, pretty consistent and pretty fair, I'd say. And the fact that they not only, like, rush at you directly in single file, but also do so next to a bunch of explosives. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's maybe a little inelegant, and it can get annoying if you have to do it over and over again. But it doesn't, like, feel broken or unfair. Just a little excessive. If you're looking for the more quiet, like, fewer simultaneous enemies at once kind of approach of Dark Souls 1, you might be potentially miffed at having to just, like, fight the crowd over and over again. But I don't know, I don't think it's a huge deal. Should be fun. Let's do it. I definitely want to get up to the point where I can start using that lance and stuff. Oh yeah, that's helpful, as long as I don't die immediately. I do like the fact that you can stagger the enemies if you're fast enough, and I think if we stay up here, the other ones will actually come and jump up and can separate them too, unless Felicia does that. No, screw it, I'll go down there. It's really stupid. Well, yeah, it definitely. I don't know if this was. What can I say? It's hard to tell how much of this is me, like, being biased by more modern titles, I guess, but I definitely feel like all of my attacks are taking way too much stamina, and, like, I have just enough stamina to, like, barely get through my sequence, but then I never have enough to shield or to roll away. But I mean, I'm only level, like, 40 or something. I'm relatively early days in the game, so there's plenty of opportunities for me to continue to increase that if I feel like I just don't have enough stamina. You know, it's not like I'm barred from finding solutions to it, but it does feel a little bit like, I don't know, jankier. So I'm looking forward to trying this boss out on my own as well after this, because this is a lot of fun with them split up. But I also remember feeling like them ganking up on you is kind of lame. Well, that was really cool. Oh yeah, I love it when she throws the shield like that. And then, oh, okay, so that's actually really awesome. The shield then stays embedded in the wall, and she has a permanent, like, change to her, both her moveset and her defensibility. I forgot that was a thing. There's a stagger there. Yeah, this boss fight is actually potentially unfair. Oh yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, like, the tracking on the ground there. She was kind of, like, zooming over the ground, like, a little bit like Chaozu in the recent Dragon Ball game. It was a little bit janky, but still, you know, that was really cool. It's a dynamic boss fight, multiple layers, interesting enemy behaviors, really evocative, cool enemy design, kind kind of nice variety of different well-telegraphed enemy attacks. The shield throw was really cool. The multiplayer aspect of it was super fun. I really have nothing negative to say about that as a solo player, or as a co-op player. The opposite of solo. But now let's go in and see how I feel about it, knowing that I don't have people to come back me up. I will say I was gonna complain because I thought that the durability on my axe would not be restored, or like would continue to go down while I was in the multiplayer arena, but it was restored. You can see that. So it's another kind of, I don't think it's a very reliable way, but it is a way that you can potentially use multiplayer mechanics to supplement your single player experience too. There's a lot of little subtle ways in which they kind of enhance things. I'm just looking to see if there's anything here I should take to help me out. I don't have a ton of things here, so I think I'm just gonna go with the dark pine resin and see how that goes. I don't even remember if it's particularly effective, but I want to try to use a variety of different things. You know what, I'm wasting time with that, but I will also just try to throw these in here just to see if they do anything. The goal is to try to experiment with a bunch of different systems and see how that goes. So I'm guessing this is not going to go well, but yeah, already off to a rough start, but that's okay. Let's see what it is. Okay, so the dark is actually pretty effective. Don't fall, please. Okay, well, should I take a moment to top off? I think she'll jump back up. Yeah. Okay, cool. So this feels pretty good so far. Obviously you have to pay attention, but you know, this is manageable. Okay. Long stagger animation. Lots of stamina consumption, but I might be able to get her down. No, 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 don't do that. Oh god. So close to. Okay, there we go. That was pretty good. Obviously not very efficient from a health consumption standpoint. But if I wait for the other one to show up. Yeah, there we go. I forget if the other one will wait or if they both pop up here. Find out. Okay, so far so good. So far not so good anymore. Okay, that's okay. Get time to recover. Gonna use life gem. I'll use both. Okay, this is super janky. Okay, that's okay. Alright, let's see how this goes. Will this be fair, or will this be like horrible horseshit spam? Well, that wasn't ideal. Okay, they split up. That's cool. Alright. So far, I don't feel like I'm getting totally, like, horrendously handled. Okay, that's good, yeah. So if I can just focus on one of them at a time. Okay, felt like I got punished there. But honestly, their attacks are very slow, and they're trading. Okay, so they had a combo, but it was expected. Granted that the way that I'm engaging with it is pretty slow paced. Like, I'm just kind of waiting a long time, and then I have a pretty short window to actually do anything. But I feel like as long as I can play it relatively safe in order to get that one down, it should be good. I love the way that they're creating distance and alternating between their attacks. The environmental destruction is cool too. Just enough time to... Okay. Nice. That shield block was pretty satisfying. I'd been feeling before that, like, the timing on the shield blocks was a little unforgiving. Okay, should be able to get it right. Okay. Deliberately chose not to sprint in there, even though it might have felt like proper for other game, or for like Elden Ring or something like that. I specifically wanted to save my stamina. So I feel like the game is like incentivizing you to be much more mindful of the way that your movement consumes stamina as well. Yeah, that was great. I really like that. I don't know if you guys saw like the sort of left to right strafing that I did there to kind of like stay around the back of her, but yeah, it felt really good. And going from, so I guess I was like slightly complaining about having to wait for so long to get in attacks, but then as soon as that last one fell, or the second to last one fell, and I was just, you know, I had just one left to deal with, then all of a sudden I got to come in and mop it up with like a really quick burst of attacks, and that felt very satisfying, like having to wait and be patient and then getting that kind of release afterwards. I just realized that I probably shouldn't have phrased anything that I just said the way that I did. Hopefully you'll understand what I mean, though. Anyway. Illusory walls in this game. I had to have these pointed out to me. I don't know how people ever fucking figured out that you were supposed to go up to just random places in the wall and like mash A. I will say the texture work here is not very good. Like I'm not trying to throw any artists under the bus or anything like that. I don't know, like I'm not critiquing the artwork per se, but something feels off about this. So if you look at the pillar over here, you'll notice that there are, it feels really three-dimensional. There are sort of like cracks and rivets and worn out faces and you know, bump mapping that's going on, and the textures are very, I don't know, it feels very real. Whereas this wall, it feels just completely flat. You can even see a seam right there, like right along yeah, like the top of my character's hat right now is right along this like gray seam that does not seem to be part of the actual intended design. It just seems to be like almost like a visual glitch. Same thing over here. The individual like boundaries between the segments of the textures are pretty stark, and if you go back a little bit, you can see that that it repeats very, very quickly. It's just using basically the same square that's then being tiled over, and you can see where the seams are. So again, like I'm not an artist. I'm not going to sit here and like criticize the art itself. I will say though that there are like this part of the wall and the pillar and the column and this door, for example, a lot of the assets feel weathered and alive and, I don't know, just very organic as part of the environments. But then some, like these, or like the literal actual can of Budweiser or Heineken or whatever it was in the gutter, some of them feel like, or yeah, like even look at this, right? Look at the difference between this and this. Look at the brickwork. Look at the layers of, you know, well, it's still flat. It's still not like bumped out a whole lot, but it just feels a little bit harder to tell, right? That there's a it looks like they might be superimposing two textures, because you can kind of see that little upwards slanting like N shape is repeated from over there, but then it's got like an additional layer on top of it. So makes me think this is supposed to be an illusory wall. See, okay, so now coming back to the illusory wall things, I don't know why you would ever like go up to there and press A. Like, I don't think there's anything in the game that teaches you that. I could see going over here and being like, okay, all of these other, you know, textures look a little artificial or something, but this one looks like it's layered up. There's something different about this, and then attacking it or pressing A. So why is this one not the one that is actually the one holding the illusion? And again, that doesn't have to be a rhetorical question, right? It could just be my own lack of imagination. But it does feel a little, again, like inorganic or something. Also makes me wonder about the narrative too of putting all of these, I guess because it's a prison is fine, but like putting all of these different illusory walls like in such close proximity to one another, not really hiding much of substance. I guess that was supposed to be your clue, is that like there's a dead body up there with an item on it or something. Is this is not jumpable, is it? Nah. It might have been. Might have just missed it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't feel great about this whole section, to be honest. Maybe I'm just being closed-minded. It could be. But yeah, I guess I'll give it one more try. Maybe if I can get it, like, line it up just right. Okay, yeah, there we go. Oh, that's right. So I think this would have been like an alternate way to come through here. It must be, right? Yeah. We normally come... This has always been a weird little area. You normally come up through here. That makes sense. Oh yeah, I wanted to look at the hush spell real quick. Let's see what that says. Is it down here? Yeah. Is it not in here? Oh yeah, there we go. A sorcery that facilitates surreptitious activity, reduces the sound made by its caster. The eastern land of Mira is not only the home of proud knights, there's also a traditional order of shadow knights who quietly carry out unspeakable tasks. I think there was something that reminds me of whatever that dude's name in Dark Souls 3 is, like the first sorcerer trainer you find. I think he was part of a similar like organization of like shadowy assassins. I don't remember if there was anything like that in Dark Souls 1, but it is cool to see kind of the threads. But now this scared the shit out of me the first time I played it. Let's see if it still happens. Oh, warning, jump scare. Loud noise. Yep. Same thing. So the first time that I played through this, I was completely oblivious to the idea that there were exploding enemies. I don't think any of them had gotten me before, especially in vanilla. And then you just kind of come through here and you're baited into looking at shiny things and taking your time. And then there's just this explosion and a scream. And it's like definitely very unsettling. But then again, like you're close to several bonfires. It's not the end of the world if you get hit by it. And I do love the idea of, I don't know, it's just very creepy and evocative to have an enemy imprisoned in here and basically just waiting for some inevitable but infinitely distant period of time where his whole like destiny and purpose is just to explode to prevent you from progressing in your quest. I don't know. I think there's a very effective, very unexpected little scare there. There aren't a whole lot of jump scares in Dark Souls. And that one felt like memorable and earned, for lack of a better word. I think I'll get a little bit of stamina. Oh, and some dex.
Seek souls. Larger, more seek less.
Let's see. Baker's going okay for now. Attunement, we probably want like a spell slot at least. Okay, so let's do that. Okay. So I do want to get like a pyromancy at some point, but we can wait until after we've done the Bastille. I guess that is one thing that kind of feels a little unfortunate, is that so I liked the halberd, but in order to really spend more time with it, so to speak, I'm going to have to... The biggest limitation to me using it was honestly just the durability degrading. So I would need to go invest in some more repair powder, or I would need to put a bunch of Titanite into it, which I guess since we have... I know we have infinite large Titanite from McDuff. What about... Was I remembering correctly that we have infinite basic Titanite from him? We don't have infinite, but we have quite a bit. So enough to get us the +3. But I guess that's fine. I guess it's like... It is weird to basically have access to infinite large Titanite, but not, like, pretty limited base Titanite. Anyway, could also go around the other side of the Bastille. So the Bastille so far has been pretty linear overall, but at the same time, within those linear segments, there's also a decent amount of looping around and branching and stuff, and it all feels like pretty contained. Like I don't feel like I'm having the experience that I did with like a first-time Bloodborne playthrough without like getting completely lost or anything. Granted, you know, I've played this game before, and there's also bonfires that we're warping between, so our sense of being lost can never really be the same as like getting stuck down in Blighttown in the swamps in Dark Souls 1. It's not going to be quite that intense, but still I feel like it's striking a good balance between linearity and like open-endedness. Very cool encounter with the Pursuer here. I like this one a lot. This is an example of a genuinely dark area where it would definitely be... Whoa, okay. Definitely be helpful to have... Yeah. Sorry. Some lighting, but you don't really need it. And it is actually kind of cool to just like fight him in the dark like this. Ow, okay. A little harder to read his attacks, obviously. Let's see if I can... Yeah, that worked, okay. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. This also curse me. Yeah, it does. That's kind of a lot. That's really cool. Okay, so he doesn't have a second phase. He just launches those curse things at you, and then also can impale you and inflict more curse. So I do feel like he's just like churning through my stamina bar. I guess that's one thing that is a little annoying. Like I feel like anything I do is gonna just cost so much stamina that by the time he starts attacking again, I'm just going to get caught in this endless loop of not having enough stamina and get punished for it. So, more so than even adaptability, I feel like I just have to start pumping points to stamina. Because blocking his attacks is really expensive, as you can tell. Rolling is expensive, attacking is expensive. So nothing that he's doing is really hard. Like, this is not a really hard boss fight per se. But it is kind of limiting in that I can't really do much. I just have to wait for my turn, and inevitably I'm going to run out of stamina and then get hurt, and there's not really much to do. Now, as I say that, I have to try and be a little like humble and say there's probably stuff that I could think of that I'm not thinking of, but I'm not sure what. Sometimes it does genuinely feel like you just get stuck in those endless cycles of like stamina management woes. I'll take this hat off, see what other options that I got. Actually haven't been paying nearly enough attention to the lore aspect of things. Just been focusing more on the combat and whatnot, but that image is just so like harrowing. And see how it's actually, so it's not just a flat texture that they applied to the wall like this same texture that we just saw in the previous room. It's actually extruded from the wall, and it has like the nose is extruded as well. You can see there's not too many polygons. It's not like a super high polygon model or anything like that. It's very simple. But that being said, like the texture work kind of supplements and elevates the relatively like low poly model to make it very compelling. And I say low poly, but if you look, you can see, yeah, like I think that the texture work around the mouth aperture there is actually doing some heavy lifting and kind of elevating the model, so to speak. But yeah, the darkness kind of seeping out from the eyes kind of look like a vaguely reminiscent of a dark sign. The scarring on the face, it's all just like, oh, I love it. Oh, but I was going to talk about the darkness mechanics as well, that it's I guess a little bit weird that so most characters in most video games will have what's called like a I don't even know what the proper term for it is, but it's like a character light radius, like a point light, right? It's a light source that will be attached to the character and will move around with you, so that will always generate like a tiny bit of light on your character, so that it's never entirely dark. So even now, like you can see, even though I don't have any sources of light equipped, there's a little radius, like a halo of light, that's kind of lighting up the walls as I get close. And the lighting system, the light versus dark mechanic in this game, is really intriguing, and I really like it, but it never, or very rarely, gets pitch black, and it definitely doesn't get pitch black around your character because of that little lighting. Now, you never want it to get completely dark, to never be able to see anything. You always want to at least see a little bit of your character's face and body and stuff. With that being said, no. Oh man. That being said, I feel like it was a little bit excessive, right? If they had just brought it in by maybe like a third of the radius, that would have felt the fight with the pursuer be that much more threatening and terrifying, because the only thing you'd be able to see in the room would be this menacing, like, dark red eye kind of glaring out at you, and then occasionally like the flash of the blue sword or whatever. So in vanilla Dark Souls 2, their desires for the lighting engine were very like truncated. Like they put out that tech demo, and that's stupid. The ambition that they had for the lighting engine was admirable, but they, for whatever reason, were not able to actually like fulfill it and like realize that ambition, so to speak. So the lighting system that was touted as being like, there were areas that are going to be totally pitch black and you absolutely need a torch to go through, that didn't really pan out. In Scholar of the First Sin, they did try to... Wait, hang on, I forgot what this is. You know what I just realized? I think the initial part of that roar is the same as the one they used for like the dragons in Elden Ring for Agheel, as an example. I think they're using the same sample. It's just much higher fidelity in Elden Ring. Which I also, if I'm remembering correctly, the sound that they use for the katana in Sabimaru in Sekiro is the same as the one that you use for the fucking barrel for the fucking Demon Souls katana. FromSoft has a history of, or I say a legacy of reincorporating some of the same assets over time. Now, I'm the sort of person who tends to prefer, whenever possible, that a completely new collection of sounds be created anytime you start a project. So there's a sound designer called Ben, I think it's Ben Burt, who did the sound design... Sorias. Who did the sound design for... hello? I'm sorry, I gotta like slightly focus. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get murdered here. For like Star Wars and stuff like that. And he also had like a philosophy that before every project, they would basically like take all the hard drives or whatever and just like not like delete all the assets, but essentially agree to not use any of the assets from the previous projects, including stuff like footsteps. Like everything would be done brand new. And I do kind of like that, but at the same time, like there's only so much time and money that you have. I'm dead. For a given project. I'm just like not built for PvP at all. Oh, I might have been able to do it if I just gotten a heal off. Yeah, there's definitely so much time and money and effort that you have on any given project. And like after having worked on several games where like we had to do collision systems, which basically means like you create a list of all of the different materials in the game. So like sand, mud, glass, dirt, metal, like hollow metal, wood, different types of creaking wood. And then you create a list of all of the different things, like a human footstep or a car or whatever else, like a bullet or a shell casing, whatever. All these different things that can potentially interact with your physical surfaces. And then you need to record like a sound for each of those things at varying levels of intensity. So one project that I was working on was a first person shooter. And so I recorded like, what was it? I think 10 or 12 different calibers of, or like different casings for different like types of ammunition, including like 9mm, like 223, I can't remember, like shotgun shells, if that's the right term, and just like a bunch of other stuff, like a large caliber rifle round, and it was. Then I had like 10 or 12 different surfaces, and I recorded them at like close, medium, and far because we wanted to have a lot of detail in terms of the. Actually, you need to go higher. In terms of like when bullets come flying out of the gun, it should feel like they're actually hitting real things in the environment around you, right? And it's very important, and I think it was definitely very worthwhile. But like some people that I've worked with, like they've done that for years, right? They'll like do that on one project and then immediately go to another project and do the same thing, and immediately go to another project and do the same thing. And it's like, how many fucking times can you just record like a 9mm casing on sand? Like, how many years of your life are you going to spend doing that before you just want to and how many times are you going to get a client or a game studio or whatever that you're working for, a movie project, whatever, where they're actively going to want to say like, oh yeah, so that's going to cost like $50,000 for like the equipment and your time and everything else, right? Is it what you really want to do? Or do you want to just reach for a sample library? You pay a licensing fee, get some good quality assets, and you just implement stuff in, I guess, like maybe a less innovative way, but also a very economical way and practical way. And I think that makes a lot of sense for a lot of people, a lot of teams. And that's essentially what AI is going to do as well, right? Like, I've used AI for like AI generated imagery for a couple of my video projects, including my like channel profile picture icon, whatever, because I am not an artist, or not a visual artist anyway. I would like to find someone and pay them to do real art. Not that AI art isn't real. I don't want to get into a philosophical debate about that necessarily, but I would like to find somebody to do bespoke art and to pay them to support them. I didn't have the time, or didn't take the time, or didn't invest the money, and it was just easier and more like immediate for me to... Please, I'm preparing, sir. Okay, alright. I guess I don't have the luxury of... Why is he like that? But anyway, you know what I mean. Like, So all this is just to say that you will definitely hear a lot of the same content, like audio content, throughout the Souls games, including Elden Ring. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think at the end of the day, if it sounds good, it is good, right? Like, if it fits the narrative, if it fits the aesthetic, if it fits the world, then you should use it. And whenever possible, though, for like iconic characters, like for the dragons. So I was watching House of the Dragon recently, and the dragons in that show sound absolutely awesome. They don't really sound like any... Oh, I thought I overextended. They don't really sound like the traditional dragons or dinosaurs or whatever that you'll hear in a lot of shows. And they almost, like, I could totally hear somebody, like, imagine somebody, what does that sound? Weird. I could totally imagine somebody giving that like cinema sins or whatever, being like these dragons sound like weird glitchy robots or something, and dinging it for that. But to me, they feel like real living creatures in that their sounds feel I don't know, not like a mashup of different animals so much as okay. Oh wait, isn't there an item back there? Shit. Not just like a mashup of different random animals that were kind of selected that sounded maybe similar, but actually I think they spent time looking at the anatomy of the dragons and trying to really imagine like what would these things sound like? What are their throats like? What are their nostrils like? What are their mouths like? You know, what would it actually be like to have like fire brewing within you, and that to be your baseline as a living thing? What would that sort of thing sound like? And the things that they came up with were very interesting, very kind of provocative, I think, and almost unreal. But so I think you need to kind of do that when you can as a sound designer and also as an animation artist and any other, you know, working in any other discipline, like look for those opportunities. But when people were so incensed about the fact that they were reusing like some animation for the dredges or whatever they were called, the little guys with the hats from Dark Souls 3, I was like, I mean, there's so much fucking content. No, oh, come on. So much fucking content in that game that at a certain point you just kind of have to pick your battles, I guess. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. I think that looping sound effect that we just heard was a bug. I think it was the projectile from the pursuer's sword that wound up for whatever reason just generating that sound, and then when the like visual effect associated with it, or like the projectile rather, was collected and destroyed, for whatever reason that sound didn't follow with it. That being said, really liking the level so far. Oh, that's cool. Hang on. Oh, okay. That was really cool. So really liking the level thus far. I think they did a great job of designing it in such a way that you could basically play it backwards or forwards, and it kind of works in both ways, which is really cool. Because you can start it from completely opposite ends, and there's still like plenty of content for you either way. One thing I will say though is that if I want to get those souls back, I don't think there's a way for me to get them without like using a homeward bone, because I don't think there's a way for me to jump back up, and that feels kind of cheap. Feels like a bit of a waste. I'll go. I thought there was a ladder, but I guess I was mistaken. I will say, I haven't talked about these things yet, and I don't know, I love these. I don't know what the lore is behind them. I mean, obviously, they're used for, like, prisoner transport or storage or something. The little symbol on there, previously I thought was just supposed to be, like, the face of a human effigy, and it might be, but it also kind of looks like a magatama as well. And so I'm wondering if there might be, like, some sort of or like visual reference that I'm just not getting for whatever reason. But I mean, certainly they're really fucking cool looking, very well designed. It is a little bit goofy though to just be able to like swat them away like that. But being said, let's see what happens with this. So okay, so it is kind of weird that like when you hit the barrel in the other, when we hit the barrel in the other room, the fire kind of came up through the stonework and burned us, but now we're just standing on this flimsy piece of wood and the fire's like right below us and it didn't hurt. Like, that's a little weird. So I think Dark Souls 2 is just like a game that was kind of not able to put its what's the expression, like, put its money where its mouth is. Like, it had a lot of ambition, it had a lot of like crazy out there ideas, and some of them just really didn't wind up working out. And it could be an issue of like resource management. It could be an issue of like technical limitations of their engine or whatnot. Either way, though, I'm really glad they took a lot of the risks that they did, because it gives us a great, you know, discussion point. So I will say though that felt kind of janky. Like it is kind of fun though to like sometimes in games like this. Like Half-Life was really good at this, and like I don't know if you guys remember the old like Jedi Knight games with Kyle Katarn or whatever, like Jedi Academy. But you would feel like you were kind of breaking the level and getting out of bounds even when you weren't. And you could say, well, that was like kind of shoddy design, because you should never feel that way. They should always feel like some sort of logical path out. But it does kind of feel satisfying to feel like you're breaking the rules a little bit in a healthy way, or in a way that's like intentional and part of the experience. Oh, is that it? Oh, okay, hang on. See, I was just being too... Yeah, okay. It's set... I feel like this fall is gonna kill me. Right? So just take an Estus. I should really have the cat ring, but... Let's try. Okay. Alright, cool. Oh shit, I should have gone to the other side of the door. No. God damn it. Okay. Well, at least I got down. That was on me, though. That wasn't like I don't feel like that was the game being unfair. I wasn't paying attention. So I got kind of punished for it, so to speak. So yeah, I keep having this experience with this game that I go in and I'm like, oh, I remember this being totally awesome, guys, check this out, and then something happens and I'm like, oh, this actually sucks. And then I give myself a minute and then try it again. I'm like, oh, okay, there actually was like another way to do this. So I wonder if for people who haven't had like not for people who just don't prefer the game, but the people who have had like the very like viscerally negative experiences, like Feeble King, for example, or this other guy is like Odria, that I was listening to the other day, that they just like get as far as the second step. And I'm not trying to like to gaslight and say, oh, if you have this opinion that disagrees with mine, then you must be, the only way could be that if you weren't paying attention or if you didn't really care or whatever. But I'm just wondering, like, now that I've had this experience of coming in with this preconception and then having that challenge and then having that challenge again, like, maybe could it be that for some people it's just so frustrating to get to that first part of feeling like you just got dicked over, and if the game itself doesn't feel like satisfying and fun to play on a regular basis, then they're not like sticking through with it and trying to find a way around those clunky systems, right? There has to be some sort of hook as a game to kind of keep you going, right? Like, no game needs to look beautiful or have advanced graphics or have great sound design or have insert any number of other things here. None of those things are necessary for a game, but you have to have something. You have to have at least one thing that your game does really well that hooks you in. Like, what was that game that I played? Oh yeah, Rust, right? Like, when I played Rust, it was an alpha, and maybe even pre-alpha. I don't know what term they were using specifically for it at the time. And that game was okay. That game was like broken, right? There were entire huge swathes of the levels that were just completely unfinished, like null textures, like no items placed, just barren, and it would take hours to walk around the game map. and a lot of it just basically felt like a big empty like sandbox with very little in it in huge sections of it. But that being said, okay, I'm starting to get a lay of the land here. I like this layout. That being said, it was still very enjoyable because of the social dynamics that it kind of fostered and the ways in which it encouraged you to interact with other people. I remember, like, there were like people who wanted to set up a trading post to help new players and basically like give them access to some items early on, and then so they got like there were a bunch of like competing factions, and they got the competing factions to agree to a ceasefire to like this neutral ground, trading post that anybody would be welcome to. And then some of those people started camping out at the trading post, waiting for the newbies to come along, and then following them home and stealing all their stuff on technically not neutral ground. And then a few of the newbies got together and banded together, and they like paid a higher level player to act as like a mercenary and go around hunting down the other people who had stolen stuff from them. And so yeah, all of this stuff just emerged naturally, and the game's systems were so well designed that it kept people like hooked and coming back. And I don't know, I lost like 2 weeks. I say this dramatically, lost 2 weeks of my life to it. Realistically, they were enjoyable, but yeah, like over a summer, I totally got sucked into that world. That incomplete, barren, broken, buggy mess of a game was still like more engrossing than anything I'd played in a long time, because it had that hook. It had that one thing that made it special. So for me, Dark Souls 2, the things that hooks me in is is the atmosphere, the kind of world building, the lore, just the sense of melancholy, of loneliness. And that is always going to be enough for me to carry me through the whole game, even if the combat weren't as great as I do think it is. That is always going to be enough for me, but it's not going to be enough for everybody. Some people are going to look to the combat first, and that's totally fine. Some people, basically need to have the game feeling good from the get-go, and honestly, I think that's one of the most important parts of a game, is just the immediate responsive tactile sensation. If it doesn't feel good to interact with your piece of software, then it's going to be hard to get people to get invested in all of the other things that are in it. That being said, this room, really, really cool. I love it. It feels barren, it feels hollow, it feels dark and sparse, but also you have this very, very intriguing statue over here. We could talk about the lore for that later, but nice to note that he is holding a scroll in one hand and this sort of very Spartan-looking sword in the other. And then we have another character over here to the side who is sort of off in the shadows and dark, appears to have a more traditionally feminine form with a hand outstretched. So, and then next to her is this another Pharos Lockstone. So, game is also giving us a reason to come back and explore this stuff in greater detail later on. We also just got a couple of really good things. So first of all, the Twin Blade is something that I want to move up to being able to use. The moveset on this is really cool. I think this was a new weapon type that was introduced in Dark Souls 2, and as an entirely new kind of like combat paradigm sounds too pretentious, but hopefully you know what I mean, right? It's like a very unique sort of novel moveset that was brought in. And I don't think there were Twin Blades in 3, so it was really, really great to have them brought back for Elden Ring. Definitely one of my favorite types of weapons. And then the Bone Staff as well, which specifically scales with Dark. Dark being its own like category of magic now. Like, granted, there were dark spells in the first game, but hexes, such as they're called in Dark Souls 2, have taken on a life of their own. And the story behind this, somebody out there had to basically make their own lightsaber out of parts they found in the garbage, in the tech waste recycling behind a Best Buy. because no teacher would actually give them the proper equipment. I think it's pretty fucking cool. So this room has a lot of mystery, has an incentive to come back and explore further when you have more items, as to very immediately useful items. And it's pointless ahead, and it's probably right, but I still want to go check it out. Oh yeah, it's just a loop back around. I forgot about that. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, what's funny is I think most people, maybe not most, but a good amount of players will start off the Lost Bastille from the other side, and will start off with like this more kind of open-ended, sprawling, multiple layers, more verticality part of the level, and yet it still feels like this is the quote-unquote the right way, like we did things in the right order, so to speak. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be safe and take some Estus. I like the fact that the archer tried to reposition through the window. That was cool. Because I felt like when we started from the previous area and then moved our way up here, that things have been getting like more expansive and more layered. But I don't remember, like the first time I played through, I definitely came the other way, and I don't remember feeling like that then. So it's weird. The space tricks you into thinking it is starting off linear and then expanding no matter which way you play it, which I think is a really, really cool level design trick. I don't know how they pulled that off, but that's really, really smart. Okay. Taking a look up here. I think we're getting close to the point of getting to the real boss, so to speak. Nice little area here with some dogs introduced to kind of break things up a little bit. Haven't been engaging much with the messages. I find that they're a little bit hit or miss. Oh, that's kind of nice. So that might be a little bit redundant in terms of a like an exploration point. You don't really need that ladder to come back up, but it is kind of nice that you sort of organically realize, oh, that's how those people, you know, those enemies were getting up to attack me previously from up here. Just makes it feel like a little bit more connected, and makes them seem a little bit more intelligent as well, even though they don't really have to, you know, do heavy lifting necessarily to get the AI to behave that way. This is really cool too. Like if you've been to Majula, which you probably have, and you've seen the well there, you probably would have seen the stone, and you probably would have thought to do this. And so this is going to be a reincorporation of that, and you're going to get, you know, a bit of a shock. But also, I think this is an armor set, if I remember correctly. Wow, that punch felt a little too heavy damaging. Yeah, there we go. So, you know, you get some... Actually, isn't that your starting set? That's imported. Wanderer Hood. So it's not exactly... Pretty cool, actually. I think I'm gonna keep going with this one though. Yeah. So, if for some reason you hadn't done that previously, if you're a human being, you would have seen that stone just now, and you would have hit it. Like, almost certainly, right? Like, most people who play this game are going to be curious enough to be walking around smacking things. They're going to see that, they're going to smack it. And they're going to see some undead things come up at them, and they're going to get an item. And they're going to go to Majula, and they're going to have a similar experience. They're going to say, oh, okay, I remember this. And even if they missed it the first time, now they've had that additional like reinforcement for it, so to speak. I did want to mention, I do really like this little bench here. I don't know who made it. I don't know why it's there, but I really like it. Nice little detail. It's kind of funny to think about like a jailer or something sitting here while just like stuffing people into the cage and setting them down. I will say this whole place feels very... I think I just used the word Spartan before, but whatever. It's there's very little furnishing, and honestly, so far it doesn't really feel, it sort of feels like a fort from time to time, because you see, like little details like this, like seeing the barrels for provisions and or gunpowder or whatever it is, and then seeing the weapons on the wall. That makes it feel a bit more like a lived in place. Like having the smith be present as well makes sense. But it doesn't always feel to me like a prison or a fort so much as just like an old abandoned castle. And I feel like there's more, like there are definitely rooms that contradict what I'm saying. But I think that there's more, storytelling that they might have been able to do with prop placement, like meaning like environmental objects and stuff. Like think about if you've played Bloodborne, think about Castle Canehurst and the bookshelves and the bits of just all the bits of furniture and decor and stuff that are scattered all around really make the place feel alive. So here's the thing about this, what I'm about to do here. Unfortunately, I don't have much healing, and I don't really want to engage with the pursuer. I really just want to run through and try to get the lever to unlock the shortcut. But I feel like I'm going to get mobbed by the dogs, and it's not going to work, and I'm going to regret this. And where is it? Here we go. Okay, it works. Okay. Now, am I going to be able to survive this? Would love to be able to get to the bonfire. It doesn't really matter, I'm already hollowed. But, nope. Oh, that was close. Yeah, that sound that you heard from that dog as well, that like kind of shaking, rattling, throaty noise, is also what you would call a library sound effect. It's a sound that you've probably heard on a lot of different creatures in games and movies. It's one of the shared assets. That's the sort of thing where I feel like, in that case, it might have benefited from a new asset, just because it's so so widely used that your brain, at least for me, your brain like associates it with all of the other movies and media that you've heard. Like that's the downside of using legacy assets or library assets. So I think maybe creating something that sounds specific, like a unique hollow dog, might have been useful. It might have just helped like the game feel more unique and special, if that makes sense. So I just want to upgrade my axe a little bit. As soon as we get to get a little bit more dexterity, I'm going to start investing in some of these other weapons. I might actually try the lance real quick, but I want to. Oh yeah, and I'd meant to take out my crossbow and start messing around with that a little bit too. Of course, I'm going to be heavy rolling if I do that, so let's just do that. Just a tiny bit of setup here, and we'll get right back to it. Okay. Yeah, again, like just trying to mess with. Oh, that was bad. Oh, aiming, that is really tough. Okay, so that's clearly not meant to be used as like a hand cannon. Yeah, okay, I'm not gonna even waste my time with that. But yeah, I feel like the whole level has had parts that have felt very labyrinthine, like very like winding and spiraling. But I've gotten a feel for like the lay of the land, so to speak, and now everything just feels like it's fit together really nice. Maybe a little too much. Okay, you don't have to do that. Yeah, it's, I don't know if you hear that looping sound again, but it's the same thing I heard before. Oh, I didn't know they could hurt him too. That's awesome. Okay. The drinking time thing is, the Estus use time is really too much. What the hell? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, that also felt pretty broken. So, for whatever reason, I don't know what the technical limitation was or what their need. Oh, that was cool. I don't know if you saw that. The guard there, the soldier, kind of did a little dodge roll as he hit the ground, or like a roll to kind of soften the impact, like a little Zelda roll from height like that. But anyway. it is kind of unfortunate that this character called the Pursuer has such a short aggro radius that basically, and not even aggro radius, it's just what you would call a spatial restriction. So if you move outside of this zone here, there's probably a volume, like an invisible box essentially, where if he crosses into it, he will just try to find a space to teleport away. And I guess it would make sense, like you wouldn't want him getting stuck over here. So at a certain point, you just need to restrict him to a given area. But what you can do is you can just give him a command to like walk back in here, and then just like ignore player inputs while you're running away. But if you do that, then you run the risk of like the player cheesing him by kiting him, because right, you can come in here, you could do a single attack, get his aggro, then run back, and then just wait until he runs back into his spatial restriction zone, and then keep on doing that. So it's a really tough problem. Obviously, as a player, I don't feel like that was a satisfying and meaningful solution. I wanted to keep fighting him, so they could have just had him reappear, you know. There's probably a more elegant way to have handled that. But also, as somebody who tries to make games, running into issues with that is pretty much inevitable. But hang on, let's listen to that for a second. So there's actually 2 instances of that sound. You can hear the little delayed. If I run around... Yeah, so he must have fired that attack twice, and then anytime he fires it, it just winds up, like, damn it. It just winds up, like, looping somewhere. It's unfortunate. Okay. Well, with that all being said, I think we are essentially ready to take on the boss. I can just remember the correct way to get to it. I think I'm going to run to Majula real quick. I might take like a 5-minute water break and then come back and yeah, just get started with the boss. I like the fact that also if you're coming into this level, you know, for the first, through the quote-unquote normal way, or the intended route, I guess. Now, there's multiple intended routes, just the way from the No Man's Wharf, right? You wind up coming out, and you see the first thing that you see as you exit is that massive tower, and then you're right there, it's right there, you can see the fog gate, and you spend the rest of the level just figuring out how to come back and get back here, to get back up there, which is really cool. And on the other hand, the other part of the level, you start from all the way on the other side, and it feels like you've come just as far because of the way that entrance is woven into the level. So this level design is really good here, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so gonna level up real quick, get a drink of water, and then we'll make our way to the Lost Sinner. I definitely think we can do Lost Sinner tonight. Maybe do some co-op after that. I think I'm going to keep the souls for now because I might want to do some transposition later. But I'll use these. Oh wait, no. No. Okay. Good, I have another Estus shard.
Is that a shard you found? Here.
Yeah, so...
To see light.
Elden Ring, that's funny. I know people get annoyed at the Emerald Herald for, you know, babbling at you every time you go talk to her. But I will say, first Elden Ring playthrough, 1.0 or whatever the launch version was, they didn't have a reminder icon to let you know when you had acquired a new upgrade for your flask, like a tier or whatever the other one is, and or like the seed. And so oftentimes, like, you would just have to go through the menu in order to figure out, like, if you would get the right prompt for it, so to speak. And they fixed that by adding those little glowing circles next to the item when you had an upgrade available, which is fine, but at the same time, this still feels a little bit more organic. Like, I think Dark Souls 2 might be a bit user unfriendly in certain respects, but also it keeps some of the stuff less meta, if that makes sense. And sometimes that can feel like it's remaining like a more active part of the world, like a more tangible part of the world. I don't know if that made any sense, but yeah. Okay, so I think it's a good time for a quick break. I'll be back in like 2 or 3 minutes. Just gonna grab some water, and then we'll head towards the Lost Center. Okay. Nice to have a little break there, but definitely eager to get back into things. Hope everybody's doing well, by the way. Let's see. I think probably the easiest way to get there is just to go through here, right? I gotta remember to grab some Pharaoh's Lockstones as well. Yeah, random thought. It's been a while since I've been heavily into the, whatchamacallit, the lore of this particular game. But back when I was more invested in it, there was a channel that I used to really like checking out called Sinclair Lore, and I would highly recommend anyone who is interested in Dark Souls 2 to check out their stuff, specifically about I don't know if I actually, yeah, it's probably worth doing. One sec. Okay. Specifically about like Vendrick and Aldia and the sort of philosophical themes of the game, because Aldia is obviously an incredibly important person to the narrative and to understanding the sort of larger implications and themes, as well as the connections to Dark Souls 1. But Aldia talks in such a cryptic way, and his design is pretty cryptic too, that it's really kind of tough to process what he's saying. I think I'm going to leave that alone for now. I don't want to... I'm really bad at the platforming. I waste my time trying and inevitably failing to micro that. But that being said, yeah, they do a really great job of summarizing the issue and providing insight into it. Interesting thing to note as well about... Well, it would have been more interesting if I survived. Interesting thing to note about those hollows is you've probably noticed that they have a gash in their side, like a hollowing out in their like lower abdomen area, and or lower like yeah, I think abdomen is the right term for it. And it seems like it's sort of arbitrary that they'll explode, and it seems arbitrary that they will explode um, either in a fiery explosion or in the sort of petrifying explosion. But it's not. It's a there's a apparently a reason for it. If you look closely, you can see that there's usually some sort of substance kind of smoldering inside them, and the ones that explode in a like wave of fire will have a fiery smoldering explosion. And no. I kind of like that like ladder mechanic in terms of immersion, but I don't feel that it's very satisfying to engage with. But yeah, you can kind of tell like what kind of explosion they're gonna do usually. You're gonna make me eat my words here, aren't you? Yeah, you see how it has like a little gray particle effect associated with it, or emitter, I guess. This guy doesn't. I thought for sure that the fire ones also had like a glowing red ember in them. I'm just trying to recall some, say, criticism or concern that I heard about these things exploding for no reason or something like that. And no, I think it is fairly well telegraphed. It's also, you know, we're pretty far on in the level at this point. But if you are, most players I think will be curious to see a character like this in place like this. Oh yeah, it's just completely hollow and empty inside. And we'll probably try attacking them. We'll get a chance to interact with them a little bit before like fully getting ambushed. It's a shame that their corpses don't stay on the ground, because it looked like there was some gashing and like wounding in their flesh from behind as well that I would have liked to have gotten a closer look at. There's some visual storytelling there that it's not getting an opportunity to like see. Oh yeah, I did that stuff already. Okay. So yeah, we're close to the boss now. Oh yeah, cool. So I'm pretty sure in the vanilla version of the game that they left these guys as hostile, so you would have to kill them or like be very careful around them anytime you aim to check on Straight over there. Now I don't think I got the binoculars, did I? I really should have picked them up. Definitely helps with this sort of thing. But I just wanted to take a look at these characters over here. See, there's a way to zoom in with this stuff, right? Not like that, clearly. That, okay. And it doesn't zoom in further, it's just the aim mode. Okay, so, yeah, let's see. Interesting. Yeah, so there is some, like, pretty pronounced, like, wounding. Interesting that the rest of their body almost seems to be, like, drained of blood and desiccated and, like, mummified, but then there's this bright red spot back here. Head is all wrapped up in bloodied bandages and mummified. Looks like a cage, some sort of internally facing spikes kind of ringing around his neck. Chains, obviously. The chains, I think, are a great inclusion because they give you like a heads up as to their presence. They're obviously enemies that are highly they have a high value in terms of the amount of damage and like status effects that they can inflict on you as a player, so you want to have their presence be telegraphed pretty well. Both the clicking sound that they make as well as the rattling of the chains, I think, is very effective in doing that. Interesting that their hands seem to be, I don't know, bound up in something that almost looks like a canteen, and then their heads are all covered in bandages. Again, I'm not entirely sure what the lore is here, but the way that they're like bound and constricted and like multiple places over their body really makes it feel like at the end of the day, they really didn't want these people getting out under any circumstances, and like did whatever they could to restrict their freedom, such that they're basically like reduced to like these chittering, like impulsive animals. Really, truly lost their humanity. With very little way of engaging with the outside world at all. I do feel like a lot of players are probably going to be a bit annoyed, and maybe rightly so, excuse me, to have this character kind of locked behind a fragrant branch of yore like that. But at the same time, you know, the narrative that you get, like the reward that you get, so to speak, after freeing this guy from his petrification, hearing his story, hearing the hints that you get about Drangleic, and then getting this bonfire, which you don't really need. Like, we didn't travel very far to get here at all. Feels like it's less like you need this bonfire for the boss and more like this is just an additional reward that you're getting for close observation and interacting with the fragrant branch of your system. Now, I did use both of the ones that I had, I think, on this level, but I'm consistently, like, the last boss that I played through specifically gave me something like 50,000 souls, and I know there's one back in Majula for sale for 14,000, so I don't feel cheated. If anything, I feel like, oh, okay, I was gonna use this to go explore an optional level in the tutorial. Instead of that, I can free an NPC who looks fucking cool in this cool area, and I can get access to a free bonfire as well that's closer to a new area, which I think, you know, seeing the fog wall in the background, even though that's not really the boss, it's a bit of a fake out, but seeing that in the background will probably kind of motivate players to make that decision. And then, okay, we've had a meaningful decision, we've had a trade-off. If we had just a shitload of fragrant branches, then we wouldn't, like, to the point where we just had any on hand whenever we needed them, then you would lose out on that sort of tension of having an opportunity to weigh the consequences of using one every time you use one, and then have to go on a little side quest to go find them. Not a side quest that you get like an objective marker for, just one that you created yourself based on what your own priorities are. So I think that's very organic quest building, so to speak.
Still a bit stiff, I'm afraid. I must thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna try to increase the voiceover volume. It's way too quiet.
Wandering sorcerer of sorts. I've been a guest for a very long time. But I don't think that anybody will speak.
Okay, let me see if I can figure out why that is. Is it just under game options? Yeah, weird. It's all the same. This might be too loud. Let's try.
Very good. Very good indeed.
No, that feels... hello. Feels a little bit better.
Just one. Weak you may be, but I, strength, will teach you my spells.
Ooh, burn gesture. Nice. Let's see. Oh, that's right. He gives us some, So, I always call this ring the agape ring. I think that's not how you're supposed to pronounce that, right? Isn't it supposed to be like agape or something? But, I mean, gaping also does work for what it is. I forgot about this, though. I guess this was the Scholar of the First Sin's answer to soul memory, which I do think is kind of a janky system. I don't think it succeeded in its... I think it accomplished some of what it wanted to, but it also had like such serious drawbacks that I sort of think it was not good. And the fact that it was also not really brought back in any future titles, I think indicates that they also didn't wind up liking it in a post-mortem assessment. But they introduced this, which is something that I feel was born entirely out of a mechanical necessity, but still, like, let's read this little lore blurb. A ring affixed with an open vessel. The vessel insatiably absorbs souls in place of its wearer, who is left unaware even of their collection. All things are rooted in souls, but what drives our thirst for them? Abstinence from this elixir may be the truest homage to an enduring self. So, what a cool little bit of fucking story crafting, world crafting, whatever, that they did there. For something that this ring is basically a patch, right? This ring is basically them saying the community really, like recoiled away from the system and it was hampering the experience, so we need to put something in. But did they just take it out? Did they just turn the mechanic off? Did they otherwise like hamstring it or something? Fuck no. They're from software, so they just put in a ring and they left it there. They didn't, I think they might have made like a patch notes about it, or like communicated it to the community via Twitter or something that it existed to make it a bit more obvious. But it's something that you just find organically. It has a reason to exist in the world, regardless of like the non-diegetic player desires or whatever. And here it is, accessible within the first 10 hours of the game for most people, quite reasonably. So yeah, by the time you have gotten to the point where soul memory is a thing that you're actively worried about, getting this thing is really easy. And it's not a perfect fix, but it's a great way of a developer, I think, becoming aware that one of their mechanics didn't resonate with the community and finding a way to fix that while also not compromising their game at all as a result. Not like breaking immersion or anything. So you can, if you hate soul memory, I think you should still really appreciate the inclusion of this. That said, I'm not going to fucking buy it. I do want to take a little moment and just say I really like the slow pulsing glowing fading on the icons. They could have just put like a little box around them or something, but you know, it's nice. It makes it feel a little bit more alive. Makes it feel kind of cool. On the other hand, some of the texture work here feels a little bit low res. Not like bad artwork or anything, but like that eye definitely feels like it's very like compressed. Miracle that senses traitors reveals the location of the nearest enemy or invading dark spirit. Interesting. Those who serve the Lindelt Monastery will willfully adhere to strict commandments. This miracle was created to castigate those who ignore the righteous teachings. So this is really interesting. I've never used this at all because I figured that the invading dark spirits would probably just come find me because they want to, you know, murder me. But I'm wondering now if it has other implications, like if it reveals other secrets. There's something like that in Elden Ring, right? There's like a incantation of Radagons or something that reveals hidden walls and stuff like that. So maybe it was this game was trying to like nudge us into using miracles to unveil like those hidden walls, and then it was supposed to be a community thing, like one of us figures it out and then we pass it along to the next person, etc., etc. So I'll probably come back here to get some of these hexes and stuff, but I don't actually much prefer to just get a basic pyromancy. Let's see. Oh, cool. So I can actually do like the soul transposition. Interesting. I think I'm gonna wait on that for now. A, because I don't have a ton of souls, but also I want to see ruins that no soul. Okay. Yeah, this looks intriguing. I'm gonna try that out. This looks pretty intriguing too. I could go use a... See, this is also a really cool thing that they did. Letting you see the multiple weapons that could be transposed from a given soul. I don't think that was something that happened with Dark Souls 1. I think it was more obscure. So maybe you could fairly lament that being the case. But that being said, you can still see the multiple options that you have, and then even if you've consumed the soul beforehand, like I consumed the giant soul, you could still see what it is and then use a bonfire aesthetic to go back and get it. So I feel like that's a great inclusion. Maybe it ruins the mystery somewhat. Like I remember getting like the Quelaag's like Chaos Sword or whatever it was in Dark Souls 1 and finding that out through experimentation. There was no like hint at it that I can recall, but maybe there was. Maybe I looked at a wiki or something, but nothing in game. But yeah. Yes, okay. I didn't mean anything by it. But yeah, I don't know. That all feels very, very good. The way that system is kind of like you're encouraged to engage with it. It's actually just like a subtle nod, like, hey, maybe you should go. Did I say nudge? I'm going to say nudge or nod. That you should go the fuck back and play with your aesthetics. Anyway, hey, Kakazun Holidays. Hey, it's good to see you. How you doing? How was your day? Hope everything's going okay on your end. I forget. I know you and I have talked a lot about Naruto stuff, obviously, but Have we talked much about Dark Souls? I forget. Did you say that you played one of the games before? Played Elden Ring or something? Sorry if I'm making you repeat yourself there. I don't know if you saw that. No, sorry, actually. Kind of focus on this. I have to watch out for this guy because, yeah, those fire attacks will definitely trigger those barrels. Such an evocative title as well. Love the name of this place. I think the gargoyles show up here too. No, don't do that. Okay. Yeah, I think it's a little frustrating, but also I think a good idea to have the enemies like push you back like that. Oh, yeah, here are the gargoyles again. Yeah, listen carefully to the scream. Yeah, that's definitely like Eggheel, like the flying dragon, right? It's like that initial scream, the way that it pitches up. It's gotta be. Caucasoon Holiday says, "Yep, very fine. Coming back home in 4 days." Oh yeah, that's right. You're coming home. Congratulations. How are you feeling about it? Are you eager to kind of be back home, or you think you're gonna miss being abroad? I hope the travel and everything goes well. Never played, but seen gameplay. I only know the lore. Okay, yeah, it's honestly, the lore is one of the best part of the game. Like, Artorias, yeah, exactly. Artorias is one of the coolest characters. His corruption into the abyss. I think it's just something that a lot of players, or just like people, resonate with, right? The experience of trying so hard and dedicating yourself to a pointless task, and then having it eventually, like, consume you and change you, but still trying to like a part of you just keeps on fighting no matter what, like never lets go. It's very like Guts from Berserk, right? Which I think was very explicitly an inspiration for that character, down to the moveset and everything. Yeah, just like the struggler archetype is very compelling. Honestly, everybody likes an underdog, right? So that's part of it too. I think that's something that the Soul series does very well overall, is just like I'm somebody who knows more about the lore is probably gonna correct me on this, and that's fine. Like I know I don't have it 100% right, but basically in Dark Souls 3 you essentially play as like a bunch of the remains of other dead people who came before you and tried and failed to link the fire, or who were just, I don't know, lying around in a graveyard, but everybody else sucked so much and couldn't like do the job properly, so they had to make you out of a collection of those failures and just hope that you would get it right this time. It's something like that. Like, you're not a person with a distinct identity anymore. You're not human, you're not even hollow, you're not undead. You are this weird thing called the Ashen One, who is like a strange amalgamation of ash. And you're explicitly told that, like, you're a container, you're a vessel, right? What you are is you're not even like a real person yourself. You're just supposed to walk around gathering up other things, like other souls, and then be a container to then bring that to the fire. But you're the one who winds up determining what happens with the next cycle, right? So even this completely useless doofus, who's not even really a thing, just kind of shows up and either saves or destroys the world. From Software seemed to like to do that, to have like useless, scummy nobodies just be the most important person in the world. Clemson Holiday says, "I'll feel free because the guy I'm living with is so annoying. Gonna be relieved." Oh god, yeah, that's the worst. And you just have like a roommate or whatever that you can't get away from. It's nice when you can actually like cohabitate with somebody who like live with somebody who you can get along with. Like, it can be nice to have like, I don't know, a friend that you share a place with. But yeah, if you can't establish boundaries and you don't get along, I'm a product. Okay, sure. I'm a product of what would you say? What produced me? A crippling addiction to wanking pain and a lifelong obsession with Souls games produced John the Maven. If by the way, if you're watching this and you're a Souls person but not a Naruto person, I a lot of the stuff that I do is Naruto related. There is a character called Pain. Nagato is his other name, and I am a big fan of him. I am not wanking Pain, whatever that would mean. I'll just be very clear about that. But yeah, so I like this level a lot. Again, I never would have... And what the hell? Oh, I never would have found that little exterior place. I actually want to go back there. I can't believe I just skimmed over that. But this underwater prison is really... Oh, the Dark Souls 3 guy is a product. Yes, exactly. You are like this weird amalgamation byproduct, like trash thing that came out of the engine that was the first flame and all that. I thought you were saying I'm a product. I'm like, okay, probably. I'm not sure how I would define that though. But anyway, yeah, like this is such a cool spot. Now I seem to remember. Oh yeah, there's the moon, right? So it's imagine being a hollow and being like undead and being brought here and essentially left to rot. Oh, that's an unfortunate visual bug right there. The anchor point for his shackles are just not even attached to the wall. That kind of sucks. It's unfortunate. Again, this is one of those things where I'm sure like no level designer like wants to ship something like that, right? It's just one of those things that slips by due to time constraints or whatever. But on the one hand, this is obviously a terrible, horrible fate, being shackled out here with no escape. On the other hand, it's also like really, really beautiful and serene and quiet and lonely. And you can imagine if you had to pick a spot to just kind of like gradually, slowly fade away, something like this might be the sort of thing somebody would choose. I'm going to be nitpicky for a second here and just say that it also just looks like he could have just like let his hands out of the shackles. And I don't know if it's like, if that's supposed to be the irony of it, is that he could have left at any time and he just decided not to. It's kind of tough to tell. It doesn't seem that way. I feel like there's probably an argument to be made that it should have been rendered a little bit smaller, especially since his wrist is like clipping through that one. So that strikes me as maybe like a temporary asset that they didn't have time to polish. Or just didn't get around to it for whatever reason. You can also tell that the texture work out here is a little bit not great. Like you can see the jagged lines and edges around some of the textures there. So it's a bit unfortunate. But again, it's one of those things that like, nobody wants to ship something like that. Nobody wants to have that be the final version of their work that's presented to the world. But sometimes it's just what winds up happening. And still, you can't deny that. I mean, I guess you could, but you'd be wrong. You can't deny like that the vibe of this is so like quiet and serene and also crushingly, bitterly lonely. That's kind of why I love it so much. Kakazu and Holiday says, should I share all the Kakazu databook on your server so you easily have them on site? I mean, I'd love that, man. Yeah, that'd be great. Please feel free. Don't feel pressured at all. Like, I don't want you to, like, have to do my homework, so to speak. So, like, I wouldn't ask you to go out and do, like, a lot of work, like, scanning them or anything if you haven't already. But if you already have them, or if you would just enjoy that, like, for your own benefit as well, then, yeah, feel free. Please feel free to use a server to deposit and share any of that stuff. And obviously, me being able to access them will be a huge help in our streams and all that. So I would only say thank you. I really liked the inclusion and like reincorporation of the Flexile Sentry. I wonder though if it's really appropriate, or how can I phrase this? So in Dark Souls 2, like the vanilla, like the original edition, well, that's really cool. Like putting the Hide Knight in here, with the Fire Seed, yeah. So in Dark Souls 2, the original edition, before Scholar of the First Sin came out, you would fight an enhanced undead, which are like these big, like semi-dragon slug-looking creatures, and at the entrance over there instead of the Flexile Sentry. And on the one hand, the Flexile Sentry definitely feels like it's appropriate for this level. You know, it's we saw another one on the way in here, and it feels like it fits with the water and everything. I mean, the last time we fought one, yes, don't give up, skeleton. The last time we fought one was in like a watery environment, and so we're already kind of familiar with fighting one in a place where our movement is somewhat encumbered by the water. So it feels like a natural reincorporation, having an additional one of these guards as well, just kind of hanging out and waiting before the final boss. Also having it being like a unique mini boss that doesn't respawn after you kill it. That also feels good. And also, I mean, given how complex the move set is and the like bleed buildup that it can do, and the fact that it was just a boss, it feels a little bit much, I think, to have it right outside a boss run. And it feels like it's basically just going to be like necessitating, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. It's going to be like requiring that players will have to go back and go grab again like another bonfire run, unless they have like a poison or something. Oh yeah, there's another that guy there. A poison or a lacerating weapon or something like that that will kind of help them bypass it. But just as a straight up fight, I don't know. And I guess you could say the same thing about the enhanced undead that was here before, but something about it being like a little bit more lumbering, having a more limited move set. It felt to me like I'm probably gonna die. Yeah. It felt to me like it was a little bit more appropriate. And I guess the counter argument to that though is that the first time we encounter an enhanced undead now is in Aldia's Keep, and it makes sense that maybe the first time that we're seeing it would be when we, you know, specifically go into the place where all these weird, creepy experiments are happening on undead. I'm not sure why it was here in the first place. Like, I don't know that it necessarily had, well, I shouldn't treat that as a rhetorical question, right? Like, I should be curious about why was it placed here. Obviously, it was a decision that was made. And so that's worth considering too. Like, what story are we potentially missing out on by the fact that we no longer have the enhanced undead? We get the thing that seems to like apparently make the most sense and be more intuitive, namely like the prison guard type thing. But isn't there something cool and tragic and haunting about seeing the enhanced undead there as well that we're missing out on now? So I don't know. I don't know if there's an objectively better thing one way or another. I think it's probably, I mean, like the Flexile Sentry is really cool. Flexile Sentry is a cooler, I think, more varied, more interesting, more dynamic enemy than the enhanced undead. So if I'm just looking at it from a resources point, players are probably going to get more out of an encounter, like mechanically, etc., in a satisfying sort of way, with a Flexile Sentry Redux than they will with an enhanced undead. Just put another one. Oh, it does respawn. Never mind. This is bad. Never mind. I hate it. I'm pretty sure the enhanced undead didn't respawn. But I definitely don't want to fight this fucking thing. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can run past it. Yeah, I'm not fighting it every single time. God damn it. Really? Okay. All right. Okay. Can I get out of this? What just hurt me? Is that his punch? Okay, that was that definitely felt like I don't feel like I got adequate hit feedback from the attack from that that hollow there. So I found the Bastille key, and the fact that I have the Bastille key enables me to now bypass that bullshit. Unless... Okay, I'm gonna try something that's probably gonna result in my death, but I want to test it for the purpose of the research, so to speak, right? Can I pull this off? No, no, go. Okay. Oh, okay, and it did give me like iframes or whatever. Sort of. I really hate these things. Okay. Yeah, so this, again, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe this is one of those things that I'll come back to later and I'll talk myself out of it. But right now, I kind of hate that. And because there's so many enemies there, they're not like fun to fight, and the challenge of wading through the water and having your movement restricted like that is also, it just like feels viscerally like uncomfortable. Like I feel like slightly, I'm exaggerating, but I feel like slightly nauseous, like rolling around in the water and just seeing my character not respond the way that I want him to. And then the sort of exaggerated animations with those explosions that knock you back. Being under the water, you can't really tell easily what phase of the recovery animation your character's in, so it's also kind of just demoralizing and frustrating. You're like, when the fuck will I get up? It feels like the moment you get back up, you're going to get knocked back down again, and the water also makes it hard to see the opponents. So, looking for the silver lining, I guess I could say that the concept of an area where you're in a water hazard that restricts your movement and also your vision, and you just have to kind of find a way around that. It's an interesting enough challenge and all. It just feels like very thoroughly gross to actually play through. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like actually uncomfortable, and I do not feel inclined whatsoever to try to learn whatever lesson you might be being told. The fact that this guy's hitbox on the stairs keeps fucking me over like that too. And the explosion radius is... I'm genuinely shocked that that didn't kill me. Like, I don't know. There's just what is it the Yahtzee calls it? A cock-up cascade? There's a confluence of factors here that is all kind of conspiring together to just make me like really not like that room. I have the Bastille key, so I guess I can just like go around it or whatever, but I don't know, like, yes, it's cool that giving players an option and giving you ways around challenges and all that, but I was just realizing that there's just like padlocks randomly on the ladders. It's interesting. I don't know what that's supposed to... Anyway, yeah, that's just very frustrating. Anyway, enough whining. This, on the other hand, is really fucking cool. This structure over here is so, I don't know how to describe it. It feels like you're not supposed to be here. It feels forlorn and haunting and eerie and creepy and decaying, and these natural rock formations that are almost like pressing away against it are really cool. So you go from having like this totally shitty, awful, like wading through the crappy water situation to this beautiful, but also incredibly imposing site on the other end of things. I'm going to get rid of these because I don't think I'm going to need them, or going to want to use them rather, on the center. Now comes the matter of whether or not I can actually, like, reasonably do anything against her. So this is interesting. What you can do over here is, if you have a torch lit, you can light this pitch over here, and it will add light to the boss room. And normally, if you don't have light active, the boss will be able to break your lock-on, which is not something that most enemies can do. Which is it's a cool mechanic. It definitely adds a lot of tension and interest to the fight. And you can only open these if you have the Bastille key as well, which was harder to find in the original version of the game. This is beautiful. I love this. The color scheme, the color palette is just amazing. So I think that the intention was that if you played through this the first time, you would probably get to this boss and then it would totally kick your ass, and then you would do some more exploring and then find the Bastille key, and then later come here and be like, oh, okay, there must be something I can do in here to make the boss easier, and then eventually figure out that it was fire. I don't know how many players did that, or if that's really reasonable. It's a pretty ambitious thing, because I don't know how many, well, I'm talking myself out of it again. I guess if you've come through No Man's Wharf, then you've interacted with that, like, puddles of pitch and enemies throwing pitch or oil or whatever the fuck it is at you. You should have internalized that lesson, and you should now see that pitch and be able to make a reasonable decision, I think, to bring fire to it. You probably won't have a lot of flame butterflies. You'll probably have just enough flame butterflies to engage with the mechanic, and since it's dark around here and you'll want to be seeing what's beneath you in the water, you'll definitely have a torch out, you know, if you're smart. And then you can do this. Oh, that's cool. There's like a little sword back there and just some rubble. But because I want to try to have the experience of somebody coming into this without that prior knowledge, I want to see how much I hate or not hate necessarily, like I want to see what my reaction is to the lock-on mechanic, or the lock-on breaking that she does. So, I'm trying to think if I want to apply anything. I don't. I think I'm just going to go in like this. Not super optimistic about my chances here, but let's see what happens. That was cool. I love that. A little weird that they would leave the prisoner with her sword. Okay, I definitely blocked that. That felt weird. Listen to the soundtrack too, it's so creepy. Okay, I didn't feel too bad with the lock-on stuff. Why did I turn around exactly? Oh, there we go. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of what they did with Sister Frida in Dark Souls 3. Of her just like breaking your lock-on, but she turned invisible, but you know. I guess, to be honest, right now, I don't feel like... Yeah, right. I don't feel like her moveset is super interesting or super fun to engage with in and of itself, and I feel like, granted, I didn't do very well, so maybe I should like reserve judgment, but I feel like, actually, I know what I'm gonna do. I feel like maybe the lack of lighting in there was a bit of a is the term lampshade. It's well, I guess there's a pun in there somewhere, but basically felt maybe like it was covering up a bit for the fact that the moveset itself was not all that like dynamic or super compelling in and of itself. Again, that might not be fair of me. Actually, Malench is still not here, is she? Oh, okay. So I'm just trying to get a couple of soul gems because... or life gems, rather, because I don't want to be wasting Estus going through the swamp. Yeah, like, I really like that dark and light mechanic, but at the same time, if I was just fighting her, like, straight up in a room or whatever, I don't know that I would have found the fight to be super engaging in and of itself, if that makes sense. It could just be that I'm underleveled and fatigued from the from the water area before. Also, not entirely sure like how players are going to feel about. Oh, that's a separate one. I'm not entirely sure how players are going to feel about spending the. So when you freeze Strayed, right? It's not just you don't just have access to the bonfire. You get access to Strayed and the bonfire, and so part of the incentive for like the cost or whatever for you to spend a Pharos Lockstone is the promise of you getting like a meaningful bonfire. Like that's the what's being advertised, so to speak. And if you freeze Strayed, like you're gonna get Strayed either way, and Strayed is extremely valuable for a variety of reasons. So it's not like you've wasted the Fragrant Branch of Yore either way. But you freeze Strayed, get access to the bonfire, and then you immediately just like run across the bridge and there's another bonfire right there. I almost feel like, well, it's tough. I feel like they shouldn't have put a bonfire here at all, because it just makes the one that you unlocked via Strayed to feel less valuable. Because now you have two of them in close proximity to one another, and so the one that you actually spent, quote-unquote, currency on feels potentially a little less valuable. But if they had done that, then they wouldn't have been able to have the... Well, they probably needed to put one there, right? One way or another. Try to go this way instead. Okay, that's not so bad, I guess. They probably wanted to put one there because there's that... if there wasn't a bonfire there, you would have traveled for quite some time and then have just met up with the... that pyromancer type dude with the long sickle. And then that has a good chance of sending you all the way back. So you do kind of need one earlier, I guess. Or like you maybe need both. Okay. Oh yeah, this is definitely... Okay, alright. So I'm like... already feel like I can't heal. The moment I do, I'm just gonna get killed. Yeah. And again, that might be my mistake, but like I'm trying to figure out when is the correct time. Like when am I expected to heal? And I never feel like... I feel like any defensive action I take is punished. Unless I'm extremely conservative with my attacks. And yeah. So, again, this could just be a skill issue, right? I'm not trying to blame the game, per se. But my feeling right now is that if I stop to heal, I'm not going to have enough Estus, or like, it's not going to be fast enough, and she's going to wind up basically, like, comboing me. If I attack her, I'm going to wind up consuming stamina, and that stamina consumption is also going to like cripple me. I basically never feel like I have enough stamina to avoid all of her attacks, or dodge them, or like shield up against them, or heal. Like basically, okay. Basically, no matter what, the moment I make a single mistake or miscalculation, I just have to like do nothing for a long period of time, because if I don't, I'm gonna get punished pretty harshly. And again, there might be something that I'm missing, but the way that I'm currently feeling, like subjectively, is that the correct solution here is to go and get more levels and more health and more healing items, etc., etc. And come back and basically just like tank through it, or have enough stamina to roll around and just, you know, essentially disengage from her. And as opposed to in Elden Ring, like the first tree sentinel boss that you fight, okay, this part isn't actually all that bad once you actually learn what you're doing. The tree sentinel fight that's like right outside the initial area is like challenging, and you probably won't be able to beat it without investing some levels and all that. But at the same time, you have all of the mechanics that you need, and if you just get your timing down, like you could beat Ishin in Sekiro if you just get your timing down, even at like quote unquote level 1. Is that the case here? Okay, so I dodge, and I had just enough to attack, and now my stamina is recharging. Okay, I'm backing up. Let's see, okay, if I dodge roll, if I go over to her and hit her once. Well, basically, if I poke her. Okay, alright, this is working. So it might just be that I'm under leveled and like whining about that. Just being like, why can't I get away with like higher commitment attacks? No, she's taken quite some time to recoup. Oh, also my shield, I picked the wrong shield. Doesn't have enough physical resistance. Okay, this is going okay so far. Can I get away with 2? Yeah, so I guess it's just a question of like limit testing. I'm gonna top off. I feel like that, like I almost got punished for that though. Okay, I can do this. Maybe. Shit. Yeah, I'll say. Okay, so if I overextend, I'm gonna get hurt for it. Okay. I can do this, I can do this. Oh, shit. Broke the lock on. Get back here. Can I do it now? Yes! Okay. Alright, so again, in the ongoing saga of me constantly changing my mind, I actually quite enjoyed that. I feel like... Oh, listen up. Shit, I wish I hadn't have talked over that. I apologize. Whenever you kill one of the like 4 primal bosses, you get that unique death sound, which is really, really cool. And yeah, so I guess before I said that the darkness was kind of covering up for her lack of variety, but this time I felt like her moves had just enough like punch and weight and variety that she actually used the darkness as part of her move set. And so her disengaging, her jumping up above, her using like visibility and lock-on ability or whatever added to her personality and felt like a reasonable part of the encounter. And I'm actually really glad that I didn't turn the lights on, although it's there as a diegetic like soft difficulty modifier for people. Soft difficulty modifier for people who want to do that. So all in all, I really like that boss more than I thought I would. And I'm going to take a moment to respond to you, Kakuzu and Holidays, before I continue talking about the boss room itself. So thank you for being patient. Kakuzu and Holidays says, all important things shared. Awesome, thank you. I really, really do appreciate that. It's very helpful. Damn game designer. Yeah, I know. It's tough. It's always this delicate balancing act. I'm sure you've heard that thing where there's like the triangle of whenever you're making like any kind of art or probably any product, right? Where the 3 points of the triangle are like time and money and quality, and you can only ever have 2 of those things. So right, you can do something fast with high quality, but it's going to be very, very expensive. You can do something that's low quality and you can do it faster, or you can like save money on it, but it might take you more time. I probably got that a little jumbled up, but hopefully you know what I mean. And that's like every single feature that goes into a game, that conversation is being had somewhere. So you thought about something for the Kakuzu KCM argument. Yes. I'll give you the short version now, but definitely happy to talk about it. Basically, my line of questioning on that would be to just investigate how durable KCM Naruto is in the first place. So, like, I have to go back and look for this, but I'm pretty sure he gets tripped up by White Zetsu at one point and like smacks his face into the ground and says ow. And so if we look at that and then look at Yukito calling him and he says ow there, what does that mean about what's actually happening? First of all, is he actually taking damage, or is he just having like a superficial pain response? And then secondly, is it just the case that his durability is not super high? Like Sage Mode definitely increases his durability. He's falling on those sharp, jagged rocks and not really taking much damage from that at all. And he's surprised by that fact, but then he seems to like kind of complain a lot when he bumps into things in KCM. So it might just be that his durability is not as high as we think in KCM. But that's the short version. I want to talk more about the boss arena for now, but definitely happy to talk to you about it on Sunday. And I'm going to be chatting some more, or like doing some reading over the weekend as well to see if I can like actually validate these ideas. Let me know in Discord too if you have any more thoughts about it. But just to kind of go over the boss arena here really quick, you've probably noticed this before if you've played the game, but just some good details. The chains hanging from the ceiling, obviously with these big kind of creepy shackles, gently sort of swaying quietly in this hollow room. Very evocative, very creepy. I like the way that they're rotated a little bit. They have a little bit of skew with respect to one another, so it doesn't look like they're all like perfectly synced, which is nice. It does kinda look like they're stretching the mesh a little bit. Yeah, so part of the ways that they're trying to fake or like to sell the notion that these things are moving is they're actually like stretching and skewing, like stretching and squishing the entire mesh of the chain and the shackle or the manacle itself, which is pretty economical. Like it's definitely cheaper than making these like fully physics enabled, which would also just wind up being like kind of silly for a game of this scope. I don't even think it necessarily has collision on it, right? Because my arrows are just going right through it. So these are just like essentially textures, or like 3D models with textures that have then been like animated to move left and right and also squish. And so if you look too closely, it does kind of break the illusion a little bit. But it's also a very smart choice, especially if you're under like limited budget, to try to fake the motion without like spending too much, or like like trying to implement or like build your own fucking physics engine. I think this game uses Havoc, which is a third-party physics engine that you basically plug into your own game engine, and even managing that is like enough of its own challenge. Not talking shit about Havoc, I'm sure it's like a perfectly great engine. It was used in a lot of different games, but still bringing on like additional hardware or additional like software components from other companies into your product is always going to be like to have a lot of overhead, so to speak. I don't know what the writing on the ground is, but I mean, if you are imprisoned in this place for so long, obviously you're going to need a form of entertainment or expression, and the shackles on the ground combined with those like etchings, definitely very creepy. Definitely feels like oddly personal, almost like a confession, you know, like the fact that it's written out in a like a structured way as far as you can tell, and it's not sprawled out over the entire place. It's like in this specific area right before the door. Is it a confession? Is it a warning? Is it an invitation? Some of the glyphs look like vaguely like Hebrew, and I don't think that they literally are. I think this is just its own like bespoke script. But I think we see similar writings on maybe like a couple of the plaques elsewhere in the game, and it just kind of makes this whole space feel like it's connected to like the dark history of this place. And then this door as well, I think we see these doors on a couple of other locations in the game. Kind of hard to make out the details, but there's obviously like a very intricate swirling pattern there that's kind of shaded in darkness that should get you curious about the nature of this place. And for those of you who are not familiar, when you play through this game in New Game Plus mode, the soul that this character drops is the soul of the Witch of Izalith from the first game. And very, very, very interesting and weird and cool that we get an Elizabeth mushroom from this character. I'll just read this out briefly. Specially treated dried mushroom creates a euphoric sensation when ingested and restores a large amount of HP over time. Saint Elizabeth devoted her life to helping the needy by concocting medicine and potions. It's thought her great virtue was matched only by her sublime beauty, but who can say now? So if you're not familiar, Elizabeth was a sort of sentient talking mushroom lady that basically looked like this, and like a large version of this, and she was in the DLC for Dark Souls 1, which takes place like chronologically before the events of Dark Souls 1. You kind of like travel back in time basically. And so when you go through the quest, you talk to her and she thanks you, and then she gives you basically like a piece of her flesh, I think. Like these Elizabeth mushrooms are, they have curative properties, they heal you over time, but it's sort of implied that they're like growing off of her, or maybe they're a part of her that she's tearing off to give to you. And so it's really fascinating to see how the legends and things that were part of the world of Dark Souls 1 have permutated and got handed down and like twisted and changed over time. Elizabeth, being a sentient mushroom, has now become, she is a saint who like heals people by concocting medicines and potions instead of, ripping off hunks of her own flesh to feed to people to make them feel better. So really cool. There's this great theme throughout this entire game of relics of old being misinterpreted or repurposed or something. As to what it's doing with the old sinner or the lost sinner, I'm not sure. But as I was saying before, the soul that you get from the Lost Sinner in New Game Plus is the soul of the old witch, which is implied to be that of the Witch of Izalith. And the little bug that's scurried inside her eye is almost certainly the little bug at the bed of chaos. So whether you think that is literally the Witch of Izalith or it's just connected to her or something like that, the legacy of it has been passed down through that insect. And so again, you're seeing echoes and hints of things from previous ages that are being reincorporated here. Excuse me. I won't get too much into like the concept of sin and all that, but we do have Velka, who's associated with sin. We do have the title of this reimagining or like rework of the game being Scholar of the First Sin, and then Gwyn's relationship with sin is like a big deal in the Dark Souls 3 DLC, and in this game too. But some, namely myself, and I'm sure other people have thought of this first, but I tend to believe that, Izalith, like the Witch of Izalith, was regarded as a sinner for trying to recreate the first flame. And so the fact that we find like this broken primal bonfire outside of a room with somebody called the Lost Sinner, who has like the chaos bug in her eye, who gives us the soul of the Witch of Izalith, just makes me think that whatever this character was up to, it was probably another echo, like another parallel of that original self. And the shattered, again, I don't want to speculate too much about the lore here, but the fact that these, especially with the way that these coiled swords are presented in Dark Souls 3, the fact that we find one here shattered on what is very distinctly, not just like the ash and rubble that we might find on some bonfires, but a very clearly discernible skeleton with a skull and everything, just makes you wonder about what the fuck was happening here and who these characters were. So even though I can't pretend to fully understand it all, I can say that I think they've done a really magnificent job of creating mystery and also like giving you little echoes and ripples of things that you should probably feel nostalgic about from Dark Souls 1. Only criticism that I have, and this is just like I don't know, not even criticism, I don't really understand why the primal bonfire is just kind of like here in this square room. The fact that it's so square and with like this almost checkerboard pattern on the floor, I feel like something called a primal bonfire should almost be like in a hollow in the ground or like inside a tree or something like that. But they're all just found in like, or in a dark cave. I think maybe the one in the gutter is, but something about its inclusion here feels off to me in a way I can't quite describe. Oh, thanks for the GG, Kakazun Holidays. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, with that being said, I think we're at the 3 hour mark on the dot. So I think I'm gonna call it for now. Of course, if you guys have any last minute questions, please feel free to let me know. I'm definitely happy to talk further about anything that might be on your mind. With that being said, yeah, I feel like it's been a really rewarding experience so far. I hope you guys are enjoying it too. But I'm starting to both empathize with some of the frustrations other, people who have, like, other critics have had of the game, but also simultaneously finding that the more I actually try to, like, embrace and work around the game's rough edges, excuse me, the more I find myself genuinely, like, appreciating and loving a lot of what they did, even if some of it is a little rough around the edges, or it takes me a while to get used to. Once it kind of clicks, I'm just like, oh, that's what you guys were doing. Okay, like, I get it. Like, I respect that. And I'm finding more and more of those moments as we're going on. So I think that's our first Great Soul. I definitely want to continue playing the game on my own. I'm sort of torn about whether to continue playing through this or playing through Elden Ring. So I'm going to think about it, and I'm also going to probably post a community poll. Let me know what you think, if you have a preference. And also going to try to play some Dark Souls 2 Vanilla on my own time, just to see how the two compare. I doubt that people want to see me, like, just redo what I just did next stream, but in Vanilla by comparison. Let me know if I'm wrong there. I'm happy to do it on stream. But otherwise, I'll be playing it a little on my own to try and be able to talk about the comparison between the two. And maybe playing around with a couple little other weapons to try some other movesets out and stuff like that. Yeah, with that being said, thank you for stopping by. Sunday night, as usual, we're going to be doing another Naruto stream. Haven't quite decided on a theme for this one, but I think I really do want to get through the, the Kakazu versus Pain Brutal Honesty video. Still have a lot to say about it. There's still a lot of interesting topics to discover. So I'm going to keep going forward with that, I think. But as always, any suggestions, comments whatsoever, feel free to reach out. Yeah, I think that's